please, because we have a very long agenda, and to be fair for everyone who might be towards the rear of the agenda, we're asking everybody to please be brief. I think you can get by your comments out in a couple of minutes. If you have written testimony, we're asking that you just don't sit there and read the testimony. Please summarize your written testimony, and your written testimony will be made part of the record. So with that, let's get started. Ms. Marconi, will you please read the title, the first bill, please?
Bill number 160512, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Sarah Street, Widley Street, Stackamixon Street, and the Delaware Expressway.
Good morning, Mr. Kagorski.
Good morning. Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Grigorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 160512, which was introduced in the City Council on May 19, 2016 by Councilmember Greenlee on behalf of Council President Clark. Bill number 160512 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by remapping an area bounded by Sarah Street, Wildy Street, Shacklemaxon Street, and the Delaware Expressway. This bill is intended to correct zoning and advance the goals of the River Wards District Plan, part of the city's comprehensive plan. Bill number 160512 rezones an auto repair shop in Fishtown from residential single-family, RSA 5, to industrial residential mixed-use, IRMX, to allow the business owner to expand his business and add residential units if desired. During the neighborhood-wide rezoning in 2014, staff believed that this business, because of its location and strong real estate market, would be converted to residential use. The property owner has since indicated his desire to maintain his business in this location. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 160512 at its meeting of June 14, 2016, and will recommend it for approval. I'd be happy to answer questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Grigorski. Are there any questions? Seeing none. Hold on one second. All right. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 160512? Seeing none. Ms. Marconi, our next bill, please.
Bill number 160521, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Front Street, Coral Street, Boston Street, Emerald Street, Haggard Street, and Kensington Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Grigorski.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Grigorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 160521, which was introduced in the City Council on May 19, 2016 by Councilmember Sanchez. Bill number 160521 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by remapping an area bounded by Front Street, Coral Street, Boston Street, Emerald Street, Haggard Street, and Kensington Avenue. The bill is intended to correct zoning and advance goals of the River Wards District Plan, a part of the city's comprehensive plan. This remapping transitions obsolete I-2 medium industrial zoning to RM1 residential multifamily or IRMX industrial residential mixed use to encourage reuse of vacant buildings and vacant land, and increases the allowable density on east-west streets adjacent to the Market-Frankford line. The City Planning Commission staff has worked closely with individual property owners, the East Kensington Neighborhood Association, the New Kensington Community Development Corporation to develop these recommendations. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill number 160521 at its meeting of June 14, 2016 with a staff recommendation for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Grigorski. And I understand there's an amendment to this bill,
That's correct,
which will be offered at the time of the meeting. Are there any questions on this of Mr. Grigorski on this issue? Seeing none, first, let the record reflect Councilman Johnson, member of the committee, is present. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 160521? Seeing none, thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160522, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by East Winghahawking Street, Adams Avenue, Bristol Street Extended, and the Frankford Creek.
Good morning, Chairman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Grigorski, Division Director with the Development Planning Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 160522, which was introduced into Council by Councilmember Sanchez on May 19, 2016. Bill number 160522 amends the Philadelphia zoning code, zoning maps by amending the zoning classification of certain parcels within an area bounded by East Winghahawking Street, Adams Avenue, Bristol Street Extended, and the Frankford Creek. The bill proposes rezoning an area of land within the boundary from I-2 medium industrial to RSA 5 residential single-family attached. There are currently 3 residential homes located within the area that is proposed to be rezoned. The City Planning Commission will consider Bill Number 160522 at its meeting of June 14, 2016, with a staff recommendation for approval. However, we would ask that there be no further residential expansion in this industrial area. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this bill? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on Bill Number 160522? Seeing none, thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160327, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Roosevelt Boulevard, Home Avenue, Fairfield Street, Soley Avenue, Farnsworth Street, Fuller Street, Revere Street, Ron Street, Farnsworth Street, Loney Street, Lister Street, Carthwath Street, Revere Street, Ryan Avenue, and Roosevelt Boulevard.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill Number 160327, which was introduced in the City Council on April 21st, 2016 by Councilmember Heenan. Bill Number 160327 will amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within the area bounded by Roosevelt Boulevard, Home Avenue, Fairfield Street, Solly Avenue, Farnsworth Street, Fuller Street, Revere Street, Rowan Street, Farnsworth Street, Loney Street, Lister Street, Carnwath Street, Revere Street, Ryan Avenue, and the Roosevelt Boulevard. This rezoning bill is intended for corrective zoning purposes and the advancement of the goals and recommendations of the Central Northeast District Plan, mainly by removing some outdated commercial zoning and by updating zoning to include existing multifamily uses while keeping single-family residential neighborhoods intact. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission, at its meeting of May 17, 2016, recommended Bill Number 160327 for approval. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on Bill Number 160327? Seeing none, thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160328, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Roosevelt Boulevard, North Ferry Road, Kelly Drive, Lincoln Drive, Gypsy Lane, Schoolhouse Lane, Crescent Street, Indian Queen Lane, and Conrad Street.
Mr. Gregorski?
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill Number 160328, which was introduced in the City Council on April 21st, 2016 by Councilmember Jones. Bill Number 160328 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by remapping an area bounded by Roosevelt Boulevard, North Ferry Road, Kelly Drive, Lincoln Drive, Gypsy Lane, Schoolhouse Lane, Crescent Street, Indian Queen Lane, and Conrad Street. The bill is intended for corrective remapping purposes and the advancement of the goals and recommendations of the Lower Northwest District Plan adopted by the Planning Commission in December 2014. To this end, the remapping proposes the following action. Zoning to advance the plan, remap key redevelopment sites to CMX3 commercial mixed use to encourage new development that will increase residential population and vibrancy in the riverfront business district. Corrective zoning, match existing uses and lot sizes with proper zoning classifications. Planning Commission staff has worked closely with Councilman Jones' staff, as well as the leadership of the East Falls Community Council, East Falls Development Corporation, and East Falls Forward on this remapping. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill Number 160328 at its meeting of May 17, 2016, and recommended it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski? Let the record please reflect Councilman Heenan, member committee, and also Councilman Squilla, vice chair of the committee, is present. Any questions? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on Bill Number 160328? Hey, moving right along. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160330, an ordinance amending section 14-503 of the Philadelphia Code entitled NCA Neighborhood Commercial Area Overlay District by amending the subsection entitled East Falls Neighborhood and making related changes all under certain terms and conditions.
Mr. Gregorski?
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill Number 160330, which was introduced in the City Council on April 21st, 2016 by Councilmember Jones. Bill Number 160330 amends Section 14500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by amending the subsection entitled NCA East Falls Neighborhood Commercial Area Overlay and making related changes all under certain terms and conditions. The bill is intended for corrective remapping purposes and advancement of the goals and recommendations of the Lower Northwest District Plan adopted by the Planning Commission in December 2014. To this end, the code amendment proposes the following actions: zoning to advance the plan, amend the NCA Ridge Avenue overlay language to require pedestrian-oriented design and ground floor commercial uses within the CMX3 Commercial Mixed-Use District, increase the permitted residential unit counts in the CMX 2.5 Commercial Mixed-Use Zoning District, prohibit undesirable uses, and expand the overlay boundary. Planning Commission staff has worked closely with Councilman Jones' staff, as well as the leadership of the East Falls Community Council, East Falls Development Corporation, and East Falls Forward on this. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission has considered Bill Number 160330 at its meeting of May 17, 2016, and recommended it for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on this? I understand there is an amendment to this also? Is that
Correct.
correct? Yes. And that will be offered at the public meeting. Any questions? Seeing none. I have Gina Snyder down as wanting to testify. Is she here? No. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill Number 160330? Seeing none. Thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160515, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Parkside Avenue, Belmont Avenue, Girard Avenue, Marion Avenue, and 52nd Street.
Mr. Gregorski.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill Number 160515, which was introduced into Council on May 19, 2016 by Councilmember Jones. When I looked at this testimony this morning, part of the body was incorrect, and it's going to be, what I'm going to say is slightly different than what I had offered up earlier. Bill Number 160515 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designation of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Parkside Avenue, Belmont Avenue, Girard Avenue, Marion Street, and 52nd Street. This bill will take a large property that is presently zoned I2, medium industrial, and change the zoning designation to I3, heavy industrial, so as the property could be used as a concrete facility. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill Number 160515 at its meeting of June 14, 2015, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Sir, yeah, please. Ms. Dalfa?
Good morning. My name is Tom Dalfo with the Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation, and I'm here. I have written testimony submitted. I know you have a long agenda, so I won't hold you up. We are supportive of the ordinance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I like that kind of testimony. Very good. Thank you, sir.
I can do that all day.
Everybody take note of that. That's a way to give testimony right there. Any questions for either witness? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on Bill Number 160515? Seeing none, thank you. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160336, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Lehigh Avenue, Trenton Avenue, Norris Street, Front Street, Coral Street, Boston Street, Emerald Street, Haggard Street, and Kensington Avenue.
Morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill Number 160336, which was introduced in the City Council on April 21st, 2016 by Councilmember Squilla. Bill Number 160336 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by remapping an area bounded by Lehigh Avenue, Trenton Avenue, Norris Street, Front Street, Coral Street, Boston Street, Emerald Street, Haggard Street, and Kensington Avenue. This bill is intended to correct the zoning and advance the goals of the River Wards District Plan, part of the city's comprehensive plan. This remapping transitions obsolete I2 medium industrial zoning to RM1 residential multifamily, or IRMX industrial residential mixed use, to encourage the reuse of vacant buildings and vacant land. It increases the allowable density on east-west streets adjacent to the Market-Frankford line, encourages additional CMX2 commercial mixed-use development on Frankford Avenue, preserves the informal gardening and farming on public land where feasible by rezoning several collections of land to SP, POA, active parks and open space. Planning Commission staff has worked closely with Councilman Squilla's office, individual property owners, the East Kensington Neighborhood Association, and the New Kensington Community Development Corporation to develop these recommendations. Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill Number 160336 at its meeting of May 17, 2016, and recommended it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and I understand we have an amendment for this one, right?
That's correct.
Correct, and just, Ms. Goriski, let me back up a second. I know you said you changed the testimony slightly. There's no amendment for the previous bill, 515, right?
No,
Okay.
it was the testimony was incorrect,
Okay,
not the
just
bill.
want to make sure. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on Bill Number 160336? Seeing none, Move on, Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160369, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within area bounded by Elkin Street, Alany Avenue, 20th Street, Belfield Avenue, and Worcester Street.
Thank you.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill number 160369, which was introduced in the City Council on April 28, 2016, by Councilmember Bass. Bill number 160369 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by remapping an area bounded by Elkin Street, Alany Avenue, 20th Street, Belfield Avenue, and Worcester Street. This bill was introduced at the request of LaSalle University. The remapping is intended to facilitate the construction of a residence hall for LaSalle University students, which will replace two smaller residence halls and consolidate campus housing on a single site. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 160369 at its meeting of May 17, 2016, and recommended it for approval. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. We also have an amendment for this, which is the Equal Opportunity Plan, which will be offered at the meeting. Any questions on this bill? Yes, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, please.
Good afternoon. Good morning. It's going to be early.
Yeah, please,
Good
don't
afternoon.
make it afternoon yet.
So the question has been asked and answered with regards to the Equal Opportunity Plan. I'm curious to know, for the record, process involved around residents' concerns and how they were handled with regards to university expansion.
I understand that the university was in discussions with the community. There are a number of dorms that are going to be closing in the future that are spread out throughout the neighborhood and all be consolidated into this dorm, which is in the center of campus. Moving forward, they're going to have a number of hoops to jump through to get zoning permits. The design of the building's not complete. It is large enough that it's going to have to go to civic design review, so there's going to be a required RCO meeting. So moving forward, while this rezoning may go in place, they have a number of community steps that they're going to have to take to get the building approved finally.
Okay. So speak to the community interests and/or concerns that were...
Can I interrupt a second,
Please.
Councilwoman? Councilwoman Bass, I think, can probably speak to that maybe even better than Mr. Gregorski.
Okay.
Councilwoman?
Thank you, and I also want to note that Joe Mead is here from LaSalle University, who can add to the conversation also, but that we have had a number of meetings with the community regarding this project that LaSalle is undertaking, and think that this is going to be the best way to go, not just for LaSalle, but also for the surrounding community as they work to sort of bring back some of the dorms and the off-campus living, which has been challenging, we shall say, for the residents of the neighborhood, but to build new dorms which will entice the students to come back on the university's campus. So we're looking forward to that actually happening, and we think that that's going to really help with community relations. And there have been a number of meetings with community leaders to support this effort.
Okay. So in building new dorms, students will be enticed. Will students be required to move into the those new buildings so that indeed the goal is achieved, the goal of removing them from scattered sites into a consolidated site? What's the expectation of the university?
Good morning, members of the Rules Committee. My name is Joe Mead. I'm the Director of Government Relations and the Chief of Staff of the President at LaSalle University. Just directly to the point, and thank you, Councilwoman Bass, who's provided the backdrop. We've set in place a frequency of meetings with the community at large, and we have identified that as the President's Community Advisory Council. Based on those interactions, which will be ongoing as we continue to identify a developer and prime contractor for the project to at least meet the goals that are set forward in the Economic Opportunity Plan, which we just signed forward. But yes, the hope is that creating new amenities, which would be inclusive of this project, which would be a new dorm, the hope would be that the students would want to be physically on campus and at least limit the amount of off-campus interaction as far as housing. It will continue. Unfortunately, we can't control it totally, but the hope is that with this state-of-the-art dorm is that students would be attracted to staying on campus.
Sure. What's the capacity of the new building?
Right now, we're looking at close to, I believe it is 500 rooms. So this would be, we'd be looking at undergraduates, so this would be freshman and sophomore housing. This would also support what we currently have as what is identified as apartment or townhouse housing for our higher or upper class students, our juniors and seniors.
I see. Okay, then. Thank you for your testimony.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Congratulations on your new post.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Ditto, congratulations.
Thank you,
Also, I
Councilman.
wanted to acknowledge in her absence, the new president of LaSalle University, Colleen Hanage.
Yes.
Who has been an outstanding partner to work with, and who I have every confidence in terms of the way she is leading LaSalle, and also working with the community and understanding the importance of the relationship between the community and LaSalle. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mead, it's good to see another council staffer move on to bigger and better things. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman, appreciate it.
Let the record reflect that was my council staff. Thank you very much.
I knew you were going to jump in there, Councilman. Is there anyone else here? Any other questions? Anyone else here to testify on bill number 160369? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next bill. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160223, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Ford Road, Shackamooks Drive, Belmont Avenue, and Monument Road.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on bill number 160223, which was introduced in City Council on May 17, 2016 by Councilmember Jones. Bill number 160223 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designation of certain areas of land within an area bounded by Ford Road, Chaminade Drive, Belmont Avenue, and Monument Road. The property is currently zoned residential single attached 1 and 3, RSA 1 and RSA 3, and is proposed to become CMX 3 commercial mixed use. The Belmont Behavioral Hospital has been located here for 75 years, and they have a multi-phase plan that will update and modernize their campus with new buildings and a new layout. Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered bill number 160223 at its meeting of April 19, 2016, and recommended it for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. Mr. Bovet, before you testify, just for the record, we have in the packet that was just handed out, we have an equal opportunity plan that will be offered at the meeting, and also there are support letters from the Winfield Heights Civic Association, I understand, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I guess you just took my thunder.
Okay. I figured I'd say it faster. Go ahead.
Well,
Mr. Bovet, please.
Just thank you for having us. Again, for the record, my name is Darwin Beauvais, and we're here in support of bill number 160223. I have with me here Mr. Mark Shore, the CEO of Belmont Behavioral Hospital, and that's what the bill is here to support the expansion. So we did give you a packet, and I wanted to just bring everyone's attention to our presentation that we submitted to the Planning Commission and to this body. Not to take everyone's time, but I want to direct everyone's attention to page 21, which basically shows what we intend on building. We are taking our facility and we're doing 7 phases in which we will take down certain structures at certain times and build certain structures at certain times. The end result will be to have a brand-new 160,000 square foot main facility and a 38,000 square foot outpatient facility with parking for everyone involved. Like Marty Gregorski said from the Planning Commission, Belmont Behavioral has been in existence for over 75 years, and they have been at this location for over 60 years. Now, I do hope that the board does, but this body takes our presentation and grant us our requests. We also hope that you can take time out and listen to Mark Shore. However, I do want to note that we did submit an EOP. It's been executed. It's part of the packet. We asked that it be added to the bill. But I also want everyone to take note of Section 3 of our packet, the summary of our numbers. What I am proud to say is that if you were to look at the number of women that actually are employed at Belmont, we have over 66%. If we're looking at the number of individuals who are of color that are employed at Belmont, we're looking at over 64%. I think it's a good story that Belmont has. They've been a supporter of the community. They have existed hand in hand with the community, and that is evident with the support letter from the Winfield Civic Association. Now, I just want Mark to introduce himself, just tell you about Belmont, and we can open ourselves up for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Sir?
Hi, good morning, Councilman and Councilwoman. My name is Mark Shore. I'm the CEO of Belmont Behavioral Hospital, and I will heed the advice given earlier to keep it brief. Belmont's been serving the community for over 60 years, providing services to the most vulnerable members of our community, many times people who have no advocacy for themselves or disenfranchised from mainstream life. We have responded to the city. We've been meeting with the city's leadership in the Department of Behavioral Health, Arthur Evans, Joan Ernie, to address the needs that are most critical to the city right now, and that's serving the needs of children and adolescents within the city. And the expansion we're seeking is to expand and enhance our services in that realm, services for children and adolescents. We employ over 500 people, two-thirds of which are residents, over two-thirds of which are residents of Philadelphia. We expect that with the expansion, we'll be adding at least another 100 jobs in addition to the economic opportunity associated with the $85 million project over the next 3 years.
Sounds great.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Councilwoman Sanchez?
Real quickly, are you a for-profit agency?
Yes, we are.
Who is your major funder?
Well, the holder is Acadia Healthcare.
So you're reimbursed, healthcare. Who funds you?
A variety of healthcare payers, state
it's all
Medicaid, what's that?
It's all fee for services?
It's all fee for service, yes.
Okay. I have a question, and this is more for the process. I recognize that the EOP plan submitted by LaSalle is identical to the one submitted by you. So what is the process for us coming up with another EOP plan? Are we just making copies? What was your process to come up with your EOP?
I'm not aware of LaSalle's process, but I can tell you what we did. Under the code, we are required to submit a request to the Office of Economic Opportunity. At that time, they actually send us a template. And I actually, me personally, I actually modify the template and I send it back, and they send it back the way you have it today.
It is identical, almost to the numbers of the LaSalle one.
But with my highlights that
Can you tell me what adjustments you did to the template that the city made for you?
I don't have that version because the version that they wanted to execute is what's before you today.
Okay. Okay. Question for our office's leaders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You indicate that 64% of the staff is minority.
That's correct.
66% are women.
That's correct.
What is the breakdown of those in executive suite level positions?
That's listed there, I believe.
If you go to,
The next page, I want you to state for the record what it is.
So directors,
so if you look at directors, we have,
3 male and 13 female.
and out of that, 15 are Caucasian and 1 is African American.
And but at the management level, it's 6 male, 18 women, and 13, I believe, 9 African American.
You say you are a for-profit?
Yes,
Do you have a board?
yes, we do.
What is the composition of your board of directors?
The board of directors is, well, we have a couple boards. We have the board of directors through Acadia Healthcare, and that's predominantly executives at Acadia Healthcare, and, quality oversight, regulatory people. We have a
many
community
people are on-
advisory board.
How many people are on the board you just spoke of?
Acadia?
How many persons make up that board?
I believe it's around 7.
How many are from Philadelphia?
That should be none,
Well,
because they
me.
are a Tennessee corporation.
Well, yeah, one.
Forgive me?
There's
One.
one. Oh,
Okay.
himself.
We have a community advisory board, though, and we've established that and had our first meeting a couple months ago, and that consists of the members, that's a board of about 16 people representing a broad spectrum of people, giving voice to people in the community, including the Winfield Heights Association, many providers in the area, many agencies in the area that support the needs of people in need of behavioral health services in the community at large. We are holding those meetings at Belmont as we've opened up our campus to the community, and we intend through this expansion to have the community have more access and a say in the future direction of our organization.
Is a member of Councilman Jones' office on this advisory board?
Yes.
I'm unable to determine if with the expansion, that's on existing ground?
Yeah.
That is on existing ground?
That's correct.
Okay. If we move to page 6 of the appendix, and I look to see where you're doing business with MBE WBEs, of the 17, 2 are from Philadelphia. So is this your first time submitting an EOP plan? Is this the first time that Belmont Behavioral Hospital is submitting an EOP plan?
Yes, it is.
So you don't have a track record or a history of engaging MBE WBEs in the past? Is that fair to say?
That's correct. That's fair to say. And I have been working with them, and we've addressed those issues moving forward.
What's your last statement?
We have addressed those issues. I brought that out, I made that point to them, and we're trying to address that moving forward.
Okay, so moving forward is nebulous for me when this is our only shot at having a conversation and discussion about how important it is that those who come to this body and want to do business with the city of Philadelphia, in this case, gaining zoning opportunities, fully understand that in a city that's majority-minority, those who you do business with should look like the city that it's in. Would you agree?
Yes, we do agree.
So then what are going to be the corrective action with regards to strengthening your MBE, WBE participation?
We're going to redesign who we purchase the...
Speak a little bit more in the microphone. It's a little hard to hear sometimes in here.
We're looking at the list of organizations we were provided to establish relationships with those organizations, to increase and develop contracts with those organizations, to buy services from those organizations.
And
we're committed to doing such.
when are you anticipated to complete the expansion?
It's a three-year project.
Okay. Okay, then, I'll speak with the sponsor of the bill. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on bill number 160223? Seeing none. Move on, Ms. Marconi, please, our next bill.
Bill number 160335, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising Chapter 14-500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts with respect to the North Delaware Avenue Neighborhood Commercial Area Overlay District, and by revising Chapter 14-800 entitled Parking and Loading with respect to the Delaware waterfront area, all under certain terms and conditions.
Good morning, Chairman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill Number 160335, which was introduced in the City Council on April 21st, 2016 by Councilmember Squilla. Bill Number 160335 amends Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising Chapter 14-500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts, specifically the North Delaware Avenue Neighborhood Commercial Area Overlay District, and by revising Chapter 14-800 entitled Parking and Loading for the Delaware Riverfront area. The bill was intended to make development along Delaware River waterfront more predictable while still protecting neighborhoods. To this end, the Code Amendment proposes the following actions. North Delaware Avenue, NCA. It removes a provision for eating and drinking establishments to seek a special exception from the ZBA within an area bounded by Spring Garden, Front Street, Delaware Expressway, I-95, Lehigh Avenue, and the Delaware River. And parking requirements, it shrinks the area of the Delaware River waterfront subject to the additional parking regulations for sit-down restaurants and assembly and entertainment uses. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 160335 at its meeting of May 17, 2016, and recommended it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski? Seeing none. Anyone else here to testify on Bill number 160335? Seeing none. Ms. Marconi, please.
Bill number 160526, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning, including by amending Chapter 14-500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by modifying the boundaries of the Old City Residential District area of the Center City Overlay District, and by revising parking and loading requirements for the East Callow Hill Overlay District, amending Chapter 14-702 entitled Floor Area and Height Bonuses by making changes to the subsection entitled Stormwater Open Space, and making related changes all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I'm here to testify on Bill number 160526, which was introduced in the City Council on May 19, 2016 by Councilmember Squilla. Bill number 160526 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by modifying the boundaries of the Old City residential area of the Center City Overlay District by revising parking and loading requirements for the East Callow Hill Overlay District, and by making changes to the floor area and height bonuses subsection entitled Stormwater Open Space. The City Planning Commission staff has proposed 3 minor corrections to the East Callow Hill Overlay District to address unintended overlay conflicts, better manage surface parking lots, and clarify the intent of the stormwater management bonus. The corrections are as follows. 1, change the Old City residential area overlay boundaries to address code conflicts. There are conflicts between the overlapping parking and use requirements of Old City residential area of the Center City Overlay and the requirements of the East Callow Hill Overlay. This bill adjusts the boundaries of the Old City residential area to remove any overlap with the East Callow Hill Overlay. Number 2, apply additional parking controls and manage surface parking in the East Callow Hill Overlay. The proposed controls would not allow surface parking area to exceed a greater of 25% of the total lot area or the minimum area required to meet the parking requirements of the zoning code. Number 3, amend title of the stormwater management bonus to clarify the intent. This bill would change the title from Stormwater Open Space to Stormwater Management to accurately reflect the full character of the bonus. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill number 160526 at its meeting of June 14, 2016, with a staff recommendation for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. I should have mentioned on the previous bill, 160335, there will be an amendment offered to that. Any questions, Mr. Gregorski, on this bill? Seeing none, I understand Gregory Pastor wanted to, no? Okay. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 160526? Seeing none, Ms. Marconi, please, our next bill.
Bill number 160525, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising requirements for preliminary plat approval.
Morning, Ms. Sharp. Please.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee and members of the Rules Committee. I am Eleanor Sharp, Deputy Executive Director of the City Planning Commission of Philadelphia. I am here to testify on Bill number 160525, which was introduced into City Council on May 19, 2016 by Councilmember O'Neill. Before I give my existing testimony, which was submitted, I understand that there are a number of amendments that have are probably currently being worked on by the council office, and the Planning Commission hasn't had an opportunity to review those to make any recommendations to the Planning Commission at their next meeting. If you'd like me to still read my testimony, I can.
Well, okay, well, your testimony's in, so what you're saying is the amended bill, you can't comment on because you haven't seen the amendment. Okay.
But I can comment on what we heard from the last point.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
So-
okay, good. Go ahead.
Okay. Bill number 160525 amends the Philadelphia zoning code by changing the procedure by which a preliminary plat is approved by the City Planning Commission. This bill adds a requirement that before the Planning Commission may consider a preliminary plat, a letter of support, which I understand is being amended to some sort of ordinance, for any proposed city plan changes must be obtained from the local council member. Before Bill number 160525, the Planning Commission staff could, before Bill number 160525, the Planning Commission could consider and approve a preliminary plat, regardless of whether any bills to change a city plan are introduced or even considered by City Council. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill number 160525 at its meeting on June 14, 2016. The staff recommendation at that time, currently, we can't say because we don't know what the amendments are. We'll take a look at them and present at that time.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Sharp on this? Okay, let me just ask, so as I understand now, the Planning Commission can approve the preliminary plat. Does that then come back to City Council? or-
It does.
Okay, so one way or the other, whether this bill's passed or whether it doesn't, City Council has
Correct.
final approval, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all right. Okay, I understand there's others here to testify?
David Feldman, Jim Moransky, Gregory Pastore, and Charles Brady.
Anybody else other than those names? Come on up. Don't be shy. Please sit at the table. All right, I think I heard 4 names. How many people we have here? We have 3, okay. I don't see Mr. Feldman, okay. All right, whoever would like to go first, please, identify yourself and proceed.
My name is Charles Bodie. I'm with the West Powelton Saunders Park RCO. We urge City Council not to pass this bill. I had a brief statement, but the speaker before me, and there's also on the table a statement from the Building Industry Association, and they say much better what I would like to say, so I will just say we urge City Council not to pass this, and the other people are saying better than I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. James Moransky with the Building Industry Association of Philadelphia.
We have your written statement, so if you just want
Right,
to
yes. Well,
summarize.
we were just handed an amendment that we have not had time to review, so we would mimic the comments of planning and say that we would like to take time to discuss the amendments before making an official statement, but you do have our...
A little more into the microphone. Yeah.
You have our written statement,
Okay.
which we were here to oppose the bill, but we want to take time to review the amendment.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you. Sir, please identify yourself.
Greg Pastore, 619 Pemberton Street, fellow 19147. I haven't seen the amendment either, but I just wanted to speak very briefly philosophically against this whole concept. One of the few things the Planning Commission has in the charter that's a regulatory preliminary discretionary regulatory power they have that's not advisory is to deal with platting. And I understand that council does have to have ordinances to strike or add streets, so it seems like it's a distinction without a difference who goes first, but it doesn't. There is a really big difference. There's a reason planning goes first, and it's because they're supposed to plan. They're supposed to analyze and decide whether a plan makes sense. And then council does have the ability to say, we don't like that, and to sort of take it or leave it way. But if you have a situation where council goes first, and this does go to councilmanic prerogative because it becomes a district councilman's decision, if it goes to council acting first in this, what's going to happen is council will have to, in a good way, I guess, reach out to some neighbors in order to say that they're not opposed to this thing, to hand it off to planning. But what will happen is, in order for them to do that, in reality, what will happen is the councilman won't hand it off to planning unless the plan that he wants planning to approve is substantially done. Because otherwise they won't bother to do it. So what will happen is you will have a few neighbors getting together with a councilman, having an informal meeting so that they can draw out the streets for a very large area, because this rule only affects subdivisions that change the street grid. What it means is you have like a square mile or something where there's no streets or a few streets and you're going to change them all. This is too big a thing to have some neighbors say, I don't want neighbors near me, or I don't want townhouses over there, or I don't want any houses near me, put the townhouses on the other side of the thing, or put apartments way over there and leave the trees here when it's not even zoned for apartments or something. You're going to end up with a situation where whatever gets to council, whatever gets to planning may not bear any resemblance to good planning, and it may not even bear any resemblance to the rules in section 700 of the code, which is where planning has to go to exercise its discretion in how cul-de-sacs go in, how road bends go, and all this thing. So it's a very complex thing that they have to do. They have to apply very complicated rules, but they have planning, and they have discretion in how they do that. It has to go first. I understand that the concept was to not waste everybody's time, but believe me, it makes sense for the Planning Commission to figure out how streets should go and lots should be laid out. And then if there needs to be a tweak at something and it has to be reintroduced as new legislation, or it has to go back to planning, that's infinitely better than having some neighbors make up a street layout and then have a councilman write a letter saying, this is kind of what they want there, and then go to the Planning Commission, and they're going to say, what do we do with this mess? So it's something that just is almost a non-starter as it's written. And incidentally, it's 143047, it's not 143037, so as the bill's written, it's not even the right section, so.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Pastor. And also, just to put on the record, the amendment that would be offered was drafted by the Law Department, I understand. Any questions? Seeing none, anyone else here to testify on bill number 160525? Seeing none. All right, we're going to call the next three bills in together, and we'll ask Mr. Gorski to comment on all three at the same time. So, Ms. Marconi, will you please read the next three bills before?
Bill number 160300, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within the area bounded by Carpenter Street, Broad Street, Washington Avenue, and 15th Street. Bill number 160302, an ordinance amending section 14-518 of the Philadelphia Code entitled WWA West Washington Avenue Overlay District by adding additional standards and making related changes all under certain terms and conditions. And bill number 160518, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Grays Ferry Avenue, Kimball Street, 25th Street, and Washington Avenue.
Okay, Mr. Gorski, before you start, on these three bills, I have, previously, we were asked to have three witnesses, Madeline Shakumba, Gwendolyn Taller, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and Patricia Ruffin. Are they here? They are? Okay, all right. I'm going to have you, after the administration testifies, I'll ask you to come up, okay? Please.
Good morning, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill number 160300, which was introduced in the City Council on April 14, 2016 by Councilmember Johnson. Bill number 160300 changes the base zoning of the block located at the northwest corner of the intersection of South Broad Street and Washington Avenue from I-2 Medium Industrial to CMX3 Commercial Mixed Use. The proposed change to commercial mixed use is in compliance with a number of the Philadelphia 2035 recommendations. It is more appropriate for this important intersection and gateway. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission at its meeting of April 19, 2016 recommended Bill number 160300 for approval.
Okay.
Bill number 160302 amends the existing West Washington Avenue overlay to add provisions for parcel zone CMX3 commercial mixed use. These provisions currently will only apply to the parcels at the northwest corner of the intersection of South Broad Street and Washington Avenue. The amendments to the West Washington Avenue overlay are a direct result of negotiations between the developer of the property, Councilmember Johnson's office, PIDC, and City Planning Commission staff, and support this important project for the gateway to the Avenue of the Arts. Philadelphia City Planning Commission, at its meeting of April 19, 2016, recommended Bill number 160302 for approval. Bill number 160518 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within the area bounded by Grays Ferry Avenue, Kimball Street, 25th Street, and Washington Avenue. Bill number 160518 rezones a parcel at the corner of 25th Street and Washington Avenue through to Grays Ferry from I-2 medium industrial to IRMX industrial residential mixed use. Planning Commission staff has worked closely with both the developers and the District Council office on this bill. However, staff still has concerns about residential development adjacent to the 25th Street Viaduct, which carries oil trains. Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 160518 at its meeting of June 14, 2016, and recommended for approval.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dalfo?
Once again, Tom Dalfo with Philadelphia Industrial Development Corporation. I have submitted written testimony in support of bills number 160300 and 160302. In the interest of time, I'll summarize the PID by saying that PIDC is supportive of both of the pieces of legislation that have been introduced, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you both. And also for the record, both 160300 and 160518 will have amendments, which will be the Equal Opportunity Plan, which will be offered at the meeting. And we have another amendment? Okay. For which bill is that? I'm sorry. And we also have an amendment for 160302. So all three bills will have amendments. Thank you. Any questions for either Mr. Dalfo or Mr. Gregorski? All right, seeing none. All right.
Thank you for the opportunity.
The folks, okay, thank you both. The names I've called, if they would like to come up. All right, I'm seeing a lot more names than the names I called, but okay.
Are there additional people?
Okay, all right, hold, relax. All right, is everyone who has started to walk up here, they're all speaking on all three bills?
Well, we weren't going to, but we will be prepared to speak on it.
Pardon me?
Yes, we're going to speak on it, and you're going to speak on the 302? Okay. She's speaking on 302. I'm going to speak on all three, and she's going to speak on 518. Okay?
All right, okay, identify yourself. What I would just ask, if you're, not to just repeat the same thing. If you
We're not going to
agree with a previous speaker, we'll certainly put your name on the record saying that you do.
Won't happen.
Okay, Mr. Cumber, why don't you start? I just ask everybody to be brief, please. Whoever would like to start. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed.
I am Gwendolyn Tola, and I live right there at Broad and Carpenter. I'm at 13th and Carpenter. I'm the block captain of the 1000 block of South 13th Street. And these developers are getting these CMX 2, 3, 4, and 5 in our communities and stepping all over us and our quality of life. They build these buildings like they're building them with hotels and all of this retail and condos and everything. What's going to happen to us that's living there? We going to dwindle down like Temple did us up North Philly and ran us out of there? Eminent domain is here again. No one wants to believe it or see it. They ain't building in front of nobody else's doors but ours that live in these communities. They're coming in, dingling their checks, all developers. I could buy my way and pay my way through. Y'all don't care. And that's how it's feeling to us. We are small people that vote y'all in office and y'all overlook us and don't care about none of us. Long as y'all get our votes, y'all happy. Y'all don't care about nothing else, and these developers is the way to buy their way and pay their way through. We can't stand for that. We got children's in there. We got one guy coming in with loading blocks and trucks 40 foot long coming up down 13th Street going to turn on Carpenter. They're bringing all this stuff. What about the children in that community? I love to hear kids playing in my block. It beats hearing gunshots. No one wants to understand that. If they keep on, we got a playground that has holes sinking, somebody's child gonna get sucked under, and all these developers coming in and building and nothing to put back in the community. We don't ask for much. All we're asking for is to be respected. The Bible speaks of children and old people in it. If y'all keep disrespecting the old people and children, who's gonna live? when God's judgment come on your hands. Not on mine, it's not my blood I'm wasting, but y'all want to waste bloods of children and many lives and don't care. That's how it's going in this world today. I'm not to be bought. Please don't let them come in my block with all this stuff. All I ask is just let us get our quality of life and the children's lives around there and the elder lives. They're not coming in to build nothing that's going to help us. They're going to build stuff that's going to harm and hurt us.
Okay, ma'am, just so I'm clear, because you were listed all three, which one?
16302.
302. Okay, fine, thank you. Who'd like to go next? Well, no, you got to come to the microphone.
Yes, this is Ms. Ruffin, okay.
Okay, whoever would like to go, please, let's keep moving.
Ms. Ruffin go first. Are you speaking on 130? No, go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead, ma'am, please, identify yourself and proceed.
Hello, I'm Mary speaking. So my name is Patricia Ruffin. I live on 24th and Kimball, directly behind Washington Avenue.
And are you speaking on all three bills or one particular bill?
160518.
518, okay.
Yes. I've lived in a neighborhood all my life, and I feel threatened by our future. I live a half a block from Washington Avenue. As a longtime resident, we should have a say in the future of our community. I'm against rezoning of Washington Avenue. One of the major problems is that South Philadelphia is overcrowded. We have row homes that are being replaced with multi-housing units. The Naval Home has 600 units from Christian to South Street. The Sanctuary Loft at 24th and Fitzwater has 30 apartments. And directly across the street is building new apartments there. Our taxes are thousands of dollars now. In the future, it has to increase. The parking is a major problem that we have. You have to be home by 5:30 or 6 o'clock p.m. to get a parking spot. And Washington Avenue is an emergency zone. Where will the new residents park? Having these large apartments is similar to having expensive housing projects. We need a supermarket, an SPCA, or other services for our community. This means more jobs for everyone. I'm against as of right bill. There should be regulations. A building is a permanent structure, and everything should have an opinion on what happens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Who would like to go next? Okay, and just, which bill are you speaking? See, I was under the impression that people were speaking all three, but, all three? Okay, fine. Please identify yourself. Talk right in that microphone.
Yes. My name is Anna Willer. I'm a resident of the Point Breeze area. Been here for 50-some years. I have a problem with these ordinances where the developer come to y'all pass the ordinance, the community don't want it or try to agree with us about these buildings. Y'all build 2 stories and 3 stories. We ask for conformity. Y'all ignore us. We have a meeting with the RCO, different people. The community said no, but then y'all come back and y'all do what y'all want to do. We need some help. Y'all keep on ignoring us and ignoring us. These developers come in and do what they want to do. They can build, we want buildings in our community, but we want something that we can buy too. But y'all keep on ignoring us and ignoring us.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Who'd like to speak next? Okay, Madeline, go ahead. Yeah. You're speaking all three?
I'm speaking on.
Okay, go ahead.
I come before you today to speak on all three.
Say your name for the record.
I'm coming before you to speak on all. My name is Madeline Shacumba. I represent the North of Washington Avenue Coalition. Chairman, Mr. Greenlee, I come before you to speak on all 3 bills. Bills number 160300, 160302, and 160518. These are all the same bills and designed to accomplish the same thing: further gentrification of my neighborhood and the continuation of high-rise and very expensive housing. We are being discriminated against those of us who are long-time residents because we are poor, handicapped, low and moderate income individuals. These bills favor the rich and well-connected. Passage of these bills will allow for the building of things as is, without passage of these bills as is allows for developers to do what they want by right without any input from the community or even getting givebacks. The community loses any ability to negotiate givebacks. We are blocked and kept in the dark in regards to what deals have already been made to these proposed changes. NOAC is a registered community organization. We share the same boundaries as SOSNA. Neither NOAC nor Point Breeze Development Corporation, PCDC, another no RCO, was informed about these projects by Councilman Johnson's office. The only one to provide information on all of these projects was SOSNA. We learned about these projects by accident. I contacted Mr. Cobb, the legislative aide for Councilman Johnson, regarding this, and he told me that our RCO was not included because we were not near the site. Mr. Cobb is well aware of the fact that NOAC and SOSNA share the same boundaries, and that we are within the same boundaries, the same as PCDC. And we were deliberately excluded. When I spoke to Cobb on Friday, he told me, oh, I have the developers call you. To date, I haven't heard a word from the developer. We have to have input. We want input, and we are refusing to have anything said about these projects. We did not find out until last week. Mr. Cobb, the aide for Councilman Johnson, said that the developer for Broad and Carpenter got a standing ovation. I guess he did, since he was before a hand-picked audience, because we were not even there. These projects are too big to allow for a few people who live within 200 feet to be the sole deciders of what to be built. This project will affect the entire area. Once Washington Avenue is open to CMX Street, IMX, this will be followed by thousands of others who want to do the same thing. There's a serious crisis in our city in regards to affordable housing for our low and moderate income and middle class population. The continual building of these overpriced, high-rise, and high-end apartments and condos exacerbates the situation with no relief. Okay, where do you think you council people are going to be in 4 years from now? Okay, there's only one person on you who can afford to get his salary to the school district. That's because he's a millionaire, and he's so busy trying to get legislation passed that will exacerbate the problem even further that it doesn't even bother him. I don't know if you know anything about the famous French writer called Emile Zola. He published a letter in 1898 accusing the French government of improprieties. The letter was titled J'accuse, which means I accuse. Therefore, today, on behalf of the NOAC community, we make the following accusations. One, we accuse the administration, Councilman Johnson, and various members of council of continuing what previous administration had done, that is to show an acute indifference to the poor, handicapped, low and moderate income people living in this city by failing to provide us with adequate housing. We accuse you of continuing to cast us, low, moderate income people, aside for the wealthy money interests. We accuse you of continuing to exclude us from the negotiation process when it comes to developing housing in the city. We want to be invited to the table, not as a forethought, not as an afterthought. We accuse you of continuing to allow the blatant exclusion of black, brown, and brown people of color, men and women from jobs, by not enforcing city legislation and the building of trades that will enable them to secure employment. We accuse you of continuing to allow developers to ignore the plight of poor, marginal, and income people for the sake of greed. You are more interested in preserving their huge profits at our expense than in increasing housing and reducing poverty in this city. We have the highest poverty rate in this city than any other urban city in this country. What do we want? I'll tell you what we want. We want to be treated with respect. We want inclusion, not exclusion. We want equal treatment and an end to economic discrimination and suppression. We want to be treated humanely and with dignity. And we want our voices heard, not suppressed or ignored. We want the percentage of low, moderate income, and handicapped housing to be included in these projects and developments. We want commitment to these principles. We want commitment in these projects that will include percentage of low and moderate income housing.
Mr. Cumberland,
I'm almost finished.
roll.
We want to increase the quantity of colored men and women on these projects and an enforcement of existing laws regarding this. We want development without displacement. We respectfully ask that the bills 160-300, 160-302, and 160-518 be placed on hold until all RCOs are brought into this communication, and that we are allowed to discuss these things with you. We also ask that some provisions be made before you start doing this citywide CMX3 and all this other stuff, that a percentage of affordable housing for low, moderate income people be allowed in these projects, and there be some stipulation in these bills that they put this in before they be allowed to build. Right now, there's no stipulation at all. They just give blanket as right. Thank you.
Ms. Kumba. Ms. Green, and after Ms. Green, who else wants to say something? One, two? Two people. Okay, all right. Please identify yourself, or whoever would like to go next.
My name is Maria Ortiz. I'm a senior and a grandmother, and today I'm supposed to be graduating from Penn State. But today I feel this is more important than my graduation, which I'm missing out on. I am greatly upset.
I'm sorry, 1 second. You're speaking on all three or one of the?
All three.
Okay.
I'm greatly upset on what is going on in our community on all sides. Number one, we have no jobs. Number two, we have asked for an overlay for years and have not get it. But the developer can come in and do whatever they want. I live next to a property that's building a 3-story house. I have a flood in my basement, a hole in my wall, my steps is cracked, my front is cracked. If this has happened to me, it's happening on all sides. We need a community center, shopping center, job training. We do not need no more houses. We do not need no more condo. I would like Washington Avenue to stay as is, because people there have long-term business that provides business for the community. If they move them out, where are we going to go? They're not thinking about that. All they're thinking about profit and money. We need overlay. We need support. Our community has been destined not to have anything by different council people. I don't know what the developer are promising our councilmen, but they promise y'all something, because we're not getting nothing. My house is almost exploded, and I'm upset, yes, and I'm upset for the people on the other side. This is not right. This is not justice. We're going back to slavery on a turn clock. Slavery never left, and that's so sad. But would you forget, each council person, we voted you in, and we asked for your help and support, and you don't give it. The RCO do whatever they want. We help them, we vote, we get disrespected by the ZBA. That's not fair. When we say no, we mean no. I have a friend that wanted to move back to Philadelphia. I had to go to the ZBA to fight for them to get their home. And the first thing they come up with, well, you haven't been fixing it since 1987. No, because they didn't have the money. Now they have the fund. So why should they be excluded to come back in the city when these developers are tearing up our property and our value? But the first thing they said, the blacks, the people of color don't want anything, and that's not so. Because I've been all around on all sides, to the rich, to the poor, to the fullest. They're tired of it too, because it's too many cars. One household got anywhere from 4 to 5 cars. So where we go? The other night, my son came in. He had to park all the way to 13th and Snyder, and I live on 18th Street. And you call that justice? Now, if I was sick and had to go to an emergency room and he had to come, where would I have to go? I mean, this is not fun and game. This is not fun and game. This is not play. And you know, I think it's rude when you sit there and talk among each other and don't pay attention to what we're saying. We're in dire need. We're at a Holocaust right now. And that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to go next? Ms. Green, you speaking on all three or again?
Hello? Oh.
Pardon me?
I was informed by some residents that there was a meeting called down on Point Breeze and Dickinson.
Just identify. Just state your name.
Okay, Tiffany Green. That I was informed by some residents there was a meeting down on Point Breeze and Dickinson because Councilman Johnson wanted some support because a certain person was going back to court asking for court fees. Now, I don't know that to be true, allegedly. But if that's the case, and Councilman Johnson wanted to get the community to support him because he's under attack, then why are we sitting here today? Because the reality of it is, this was not the talk in 2008 when you was working for State Senator Anthony Williams. And this was not the talk when you used to get off the 17 bus and I was running my leagues at Ralph Brooks Tot Lot. This was not the talk that we discussed then. So why are we sitting here today? Because what you're doing, Councilman Johnson, is you're taking away the community's right to appeal. When you change the zoning, you're saying that we don't have no right to appeal. You're allowing the Planning Commission to come to you and say that your community should not be able to have an appeal. Now, our ancestors didn't die and everything so that our appeal right can be taken from us. We should at least have the right to keep appeal. Keep it a level playing field, okay? Because when we down here on 20th and Tasker and running the basketball leagues, it's a level playing field, okay? So let's keep it down here in City Hall as a level playing field. Don't take away our right, because the reality is you talking about drink and the eating establishments on Washington Avenue. There has not been one additional business on Washington Avenue that I know, except for we put the storage unit at 23rd and Washington Avenue, and then we put Habitat for Humanity resale store. So we've been able to maintain the light industrial, and that's an opportunity to bring other big, large companies to come down here with jobs, not eating eating establishment, because first of all, Washington Avenue is arterial. It comes from I-95 to 76. What was the purpose of I-95? So that the trucks can come off of I-95 and come through the city without coming through the residential areas and disturbing the foundation of the houses. Let's understand the history of Washington Avenue and why Washington Avenue is important for us to maintain areas where if you all would decide to focus on bringing in jobs like other cities are doing, like New York and all them, then maybe we would have areas where the big companies could come in and bring in 100, 150 jobs inside of Center City, okay, not out on the outskirts. I'm saying let's think about in terms of the community, not necessarily housing, because I'm going to finish it up. Because of the fact when you're talking about eating and drinking establishments, why should they be allowed to eat and drink establishments up and down Washington Avenue when African Americans are being arrested for having a beer on the step? You cannot drink a beer on your step because that's considered a highway, and you get a court case. You got to go downtown, you got to plead not guilty or guilty, and then on top of it, you got to pay $200.
Ms. Greenlee,
One minute.
Wait a minute. Please talk about the bills. We're not talking about the bills.
Because the bill says eating and
All right,
drinking
go ahead.
on the bill.
Okay,
Did you read the bill, Mr. Greenlee?
Go ahead.
Okay, so we're saying that why should we keep this eating and drinking establishment all on Washington? Because these type of establishments don't bring no job, they're part-time, no benefits, no health benefits. So what's the reason? Why are they allowed to walk up and down? When they had the beer garden Saturday, they threw beer all out in the street. They was urinating all over on the side lot. Okay, but nobody stood up for the community who said they didn't want the beer garden. Okay, they're allowed to come down and do a beer garden. You allowed them to come down on Washington Avenue, but where we at? We gonna get arrested because we drinking a Coke 45 or what you come on the step? No, this type of treatment cannot continue, and it starts with you. You need to stand up for your community, because this is not the talk that you said back in 2008 when you was talking about running for an office.
Thank you. Mr. McCormick, you also speaking on all three bills?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Please state your name right in the microphone, because that thing isn't working that well.
My name is Teresa McCormick. I am a longtime resident of Point Breeze. It saddens me today to come and talk about this bill. Today, I went to the zoning board for a project. Back in February, this same developer asked for 9 houses at market rate. Market rate for us is $500,000 to $700,000, which sits on a street which is done, everyone is being forced out. Today, another project from the same developer on the same street. We also found out that more houses are going to be built on this street at the end of this month. Now, I guess you're saying, what does that have to do with what we're talking about today? On Washington Avenue, with housing, and especially we're talking about market rate housing and small retail shops, is not going to support the community. Not at all, financially. As an aunt who has a nephew who is working in one of those type of establishments, he's only getting paid $10 an hour. And he went to school, and he went to college, and it's not working. I have a son who went to college, who I helped graduate in 2014. A daughter who graduated from LaSalle 2 weeks ago. No jobs here in Philadelphia. Now I have one more who's going to graduate next year. You're saying about putting in these small retail shops, but we're not being supported. They're not able to carry their families, not even themselves, here in Philadelphia. It was sad to see me put my son on the plane to California because there's no jobs here in Philadelphia. In California, with all of the houses that are going up and being built, it exploded. The people couldn't afford to pay. Now there's a lot of vacant homes there. We're here at the same thing here in Philadelphia. Also, in North Carolina, just to give you a feedback here of what you're doing. A whole town, Weldon, North Carolina, same thing. Do you know that right now, if you go online, you'll see that there's 200 houses up for sale because the people could not afford to carry no jobs. Council, this is not a good move. We're asking you to keep this light industrial, which it always have, which help feed a lot of people in our communities. We're asking you to keep them as is. Councilman Johnson, you know, sometimes we have disagreed and sometimes we agreed. This time I've asked you that let's sit down and do a plan for jobs. I heard Councilman Clark said 10,000 jobs. This strip could be the catalyst of us having jobs here in the community. Myself, I'm not the normal person. I go, I call, and I talk to the person over at Microsoft. He wanted to come here back 2 years ago. But at that time, the person who was in charge of our city planning couldn't see that. If we had Microsoft who wanted to come here, there's other companies that want to come here to Philadelphia. And why is it that, Councilman Johnson, it should be your area. Let you be the one to take the reins and run with this. So Councilman Johnson and all the city council, I ask you to not to do this bill. I ask you also when it comes down to the RCOs, that one RCO should not go against the community. The RCO is supposed to support the community and what is said and the councilman, not to go against whatever is being done. And that's what's happening here. Secondly, thirdly, please, in terms of development, and I know what we're talking about in terms of developer, certain developer, saying no means that we won. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sir, were you going to testify too, or? Okay.
Yes, my name is Kenneth Taylor.
Just state your name for the record, please.
Kenneth Taylor. I live at 1007 South 25th Street.
Okay, are you
And I
stating
just
on
would
all
like
three?
to oppose all three bills.
You oppose all three
Yes.
bills? Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for your statement. Anyone else here wants to testify?
Councilman.
Hold on. Ms. Vitas, you want to come up too? Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Vitas, come up too. Mr. Pastor?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Point of information.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman?
To the sponsor of the bill, or either any one of the women, are they members of an RCO? To those who just testified? Are you?
Yeah.
They are?
It's half and half.
Okay.
One from one side of, one from Point Breeze, one from Southwest Center City.
Thank you thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Other than these three, is there anyone else here that wants to make a statement? Okay. Who wants to go first? Please. Please identify yourself and proceed.
My name is Laverne Johnson, and I'm from the North of Washington Avenue Coalition, and parking is hectic. It's just, I'm concerned about the 2501 building, 2501 Washington Avenue, and right now, I'm in Montrose Street, If I don't get there early enough, I have to park on the other side, the south side. I'm on the north side, so I got to park on the south side of Washington Avenue, Ellsworth, as far as Federal. Now, this building that's getting ready to be erected, they don't have, I forget how many units is in there, 60 some odd. So anyway, we're up against 28 parking spaces, 28 to 30 parking spaces. Where are they going to go? Where are we going to go? It's like a rat race. You got to get in early. The earliest you can get in, you might be able to get a parking place, and definitely not in front of your own house, so that's totally out. So, and then that goes into the fact that the housing situation, the program, what is the AVI, and all that kind of situation. Now, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. Lord help me. I wanted to connect.
Just be clear, which bill, are we speaking about all three here?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of connect that together, but I've kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, it's enough, okay, with the AVI situation, and bringing in the investors to help build and so forth, and them not paying any taxes for the tax abatement, considering another 20 years to add to the tax abatement, which is, it's like enough already with the investors, with the building. You know, it's enough building. Every time you turn around, it's building. Where are the people, residential, where are the people going to park? Where are you got to consider that. Where they're on top of each other right now, and Lord knows don't have two cars, husband and wife in one house. Where are you going to park? That's all I wanted to say. Really consider that you need to cut all of this building got to be cut, because I know it had a purpose to it, and that purpose was to center on Philadelphia, bring economic monies to the city. It's done what it was supposed to do. It's time to cut it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I would just ask whoever wants to go next, but we still have a number of bills, so I would ask everybody to be brief. Sir, are you speaking on this too?
I am.
Okay, I asked a few times if there is anybody else, but okay, please, go ahead.
Good morning, my name is Lauren Vitas. I am here as chair of the South of South Neighborhood Association. I'm speaking on all three bills. Councilman, did you want me to just sort of cover them all at once?
Yeah, please, yeah.
So initially, I'd like to talk about the role of SOSNA in terms of our process in the zoning by ordinance versus zoning at the ZBA. City Council has set protocols in legislation for how the RCO process works by ZBA. Those protocols don't really exist in terms of the ordinance process. So we decided as a community organization that the same level of input that happens when a developer goes to the ZBA should be mirrored when a bill is done to change the zoning designation. We adopted these protocols in 2014, and they essentially mirror the ZBA process. They require notice to near neighbors within 500 feet by flyering or letters. They require multiple community meetings. And in our experience, what we found is we actually hold more meetings when a bill is done by ordinance than we end up doing when it's through the ZBA. The second thing I want to talk about is the vision of Washington Avenue. I think all of the concerns that have been raised at this table are very real and very important, and not just in our neighborhood, but across the city. We just don't see keeping lots empty on Washington Ave as the solution to those very serious issues. In terms of jobs, in terms of affordable housing, we would love to work with this body to figure out real solutions to those issues, or at least try to move the needle on it. But leaving a L-shaped lot at the prominent corner of Broad and Washington fallow to be used for snow dumping or parking, it's just not the answer. In terms of the two projects that are here before you today, 2501 Washington and Broad and Washington both went through our protocol process, which is laid out in the two letters that you have before you, so I'm not going to go into it here. Each project had approximately 8 to 10 community meetings, ranging from near neighbor invitation to broader public meetings. They're advertised through our normal process, how we advertise all of our meetings, which is social media, email, whatever means. We do not have the capacity as an RCO to send letters to every neighbor for every project. We just don't have that in our budget. Both of the projects are going to bring commercial mixed use along Washington Ave, which is in line with the vision for Washington Ave laid out by the Planning Commission and supported by the South Association and broader community. I'd like to thank the developers who reached out very early in the process. They relied heavily on surveys that we have taken of the community in terms of which amenities that we want. In terms of the job situation, both developers have been very committed to looking first inside the community for their hiring needs. So we will continue to work with them on that, whether it's a job fair or working with Councilman Johnson's office. In sum, both of the projects received favorable support from the community, and we're very excited to see these two empty former industrial lots turned into mixed-use projects.
Thank you very much. Whoever would like to go next, is there anyone else here? I ask one more time, that wants to make a statement. Okay, great. Sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Hercules Grigos, and I'm counsel for High Top Development, Equilone of 2501 Washington Avenue. I want to thank you for allowing me to testify in support of Bill 160518 for the remapping of the site known as 2501 Washington. Just some history.
Speak a little bit more into the microphone. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a little history of the site. As you know, it's a vacant site, and our zoning history of the site, it's been used on and off as a sort of a shuttle parking lot, but prior to that, the last recorded industrial use that we had was a coal yard in 1939, and the zoning record showed as late as 1962, the property was vacant and used sparsely for surface parking. As you know, the character of Washington Avenue is changing and continues to transform, and with our meeting with the Planning Commission in Sosna, the hope is to remap the site into something that's more useful as opposed to the land sitting fallow. We started our process at the end of 2015. We began meeting with near neighbors and RCOs and other stakeholders. Along each step of the way, we received comments and input and revised the project accordingly. We had numerous meetings with City Planning and the Streets Department and received additional feedback which we incorporated into the plans. The result was the proposal to remap the site to a more appropriate IRMX, which would allow for our proposed development now of a 60-unit apartment building, ground floor commercial along Washington Avenue, and additionally 17 townhomes and 45 parking spaces. The original design was much taller and denser, but based on feedback, we were able to increase the parking above a 50% ratio, and as you know, the required ratio is 1 to 3 parking, and we're above 50%.
Can you repeat that, please, regarding the parking?
Yeah, so we have 45 spaces for approximately 84 units. So we are above 50%, a 1 to 2 ratio. The parking requirement in IRMX or CMX3 or other dense urban zones is 3 spaces for every 10, so approximately 30%, and we're above 50%. And as you know, the parking ratio for RM1 multifamily is 0 parking required. So we're well above what's required, and we think addressing that need and concern. As noted in our letter from the coordinating RCO, we met with the near neighbors within 500 feet on 2 occasions. We had 2 public meetings with Sosna. The final meeting came last week where there was unanimous support to remap the site. Additionally, we met with the Washington Avenue Property Owners Association, as well as the North Washington Avenue Coalition. We actually met with Ms. Shakomba's group on February 10th at Shiloh Baptist Church. So we met with them early on and got feedback. We had numerous meetings, as I said, with City Planning Commission. As a result of these meetings, we also met with the Design Review Committee of Sosna, which helped transform the project additionally. The original design was 96 units, 17 townhomes, 6 stories, 80 feet in height with 43 parking spaces. As a result of the impact, feedback, and changes that we made, the proposed project before you is 60 apartments, 5 stories, 60 feet in height, 17 townhomes, 9 condos along Grays Ferry Avenue, 45 parking spaces, an open-air green public space, additionally walking path inside the townhome complex. We maintained the egress to 25th Street and 9-foot rear yards from all of the northern neighbors as well as the train tracks to the south. They said the feedback that was the project was, they really wanted open air green space, eliminated the density, eliminated an extra floor to get to 60 feet in height, and the setbacks from the neighbors on 25th Street Kimball Street and the train tracks. Additionally, Councilman's office is aware we've entered into an economic opportunity plan, which was signed, which was submitted to the council office. Finally, in some of the comments I heard earlier, some of the concern was over, jobs and the job creation on Washington Avenue. But as I'm sure the committee is aware and the councilman's aware, this area has sat vacant for, as I said, since the 60s or possibly earlier. If there was an opportunity for industrial development, I'm sure my clients would have done it and would have moved forward. But the reality is that the history of these properties being vacant is clear that there is no interest in this area. What we realize is an important component to this, and what we heard when we met with some of the neighbors was, how do we address the existing neighbors and some of the existing neighbors that are at a lower economic level, and how do we keep them in their homes? So what we did was, we had a meeting with Habitat for Humanity. And my client has met with them and is close to an agreement to create a program, essentially a charitable program, where we would make contributions and set up a program and fund infrastructure to essentially create a process where they would go into the neighborhood, which within a certain radius of our project, into the Point Breeze and south-to-south neighborhood, Graduate Hospital neighborhood, and the average rehab for an existing home that Habitat for Humanity does, and they do this around the city, is about $8,000 per house. So we want to work with Habitat to create a process and create a fund where they do this in other parts of the city, but where they could focus on this neighborhood, and they can go in and keep existing residents in their homes and help support that. And we think what we're creating here in setting up the structure and maybe doing it over a period of time, that this is something that other owners or other people, other developers could join in. I also represent a few other property owners along Washington Avenue, and they've expressed interest in this as they develop their plans. And we think it could be something that could really be strong, give back, and really some of the comments that we heard about public housing and what are the solutions. So this is a solution that we're proposing that we think works, maybe in addition to other things, but this is something that we're hopeful can be successful on a small scale and grow even larger in this area.
Okay, sir, I would ask you, please, because
Okay.
I put a limit on the other people's side. I don't want to, please, if you could wrap up.
So with that, I'll ask that you support the bill and answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Pastor, you want to say something?
Greg Pastor, 619 Pemberton Street. As some of you know, I used to be on the zoning board. And everybody's made actually very good points. I did want to suggest, though, something very important that I just got to say. Mr. Cumba said you'd be taking away their right to appeal if you did this. What you meant was the ability to have something be a variance, and then if it goes to the zoning board and the zoning board approves it, then you can appeal to a court. Well, she used the term by right. Just if I can stress one thing in this city to people, by right, just when you hear by right, hear legal. And when you hear variant, hear illegal. And when we give variances to people, we're sort of spot decriminalizing an illegal activity because the law does not allow you to do it. By right is what development is. So what's supposed to happen is this. What's happening right now is a remapping process if everybody thinks that something is mapped incorrectly. That's what you do. Now, I understand there may be some debate about whether any of these parcels are mapped incorrectly. So Ms. Vita said, and I agree with her, that a salt pile at Broad and Washington is really a stupid thing. So if that's all it's good for now, then it has to be remapped. I won't go to the other end of Washington Avenue. I'm sensitive to the Washington Avenue that exists now. I was just at CNR, and I was at Atlas Roofing, and I ate at Cafe Inez just last week when I was running some errands. And so I get that there's some value in that. The planning, the citywide plan and the district plan talk about what should happen for Washington Avenue. So I will just sum up, and I also will say, Mr. Cobb took some shots there. Hey, Mr. Cobb, numerous occasions he said to me, what are you guys doing at the board? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, you're supposed to be remapping these things. These things are not supposed to go to the zoning board. So I just want to say that this committee process you're doing now is the right way to get there. The best way to deal with Washington Avenue, which is a special place, is a blanket remapping after a heck of a lot of planning. The second best way to do it is to deal with vacant parcels that are there in a spot-by-spot remapping. The worst way to deal with it is at the zoning board. So, just to recap, you are doing the right thing by doing this. I won't speak to the particular bills as far as the substance of what exactly should go there, but the ball is supposed to be in council's court to deal with exactly these kind of things.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pastor. Councilwoman, you have a question?
Yes.
Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
I want to thank you.
No, hold. We're not going back and forth. Everybody had one chance at it, okay? We're not going back and forth, okay? Please. Councilwoman. No, okay.
Let me thank you all for your testimony, and I need you to know that I appreciate the clarity on the parking situation, because we know and fully recognize around the city, as you stated, Lauren, it's an ugly problem, and quite frankly, we haven't figured it out yet as a city. So to hear the clarity and the way you have approached that particular issue is helpful. It states in the letter that on the back page that many positive changes to the project have been incorporated, making it better than first proposed. Cite a couple of examples that came as a result of those multiple community
Can I just
meetings.
ask which project you're referring to? Because I think there are two letters in front of you.
This one would be 160-518-2501 Washington Avenue.
2501. I think probably the biggest change that we saw was the reduction in height and the reduction in the number of units with an addition of a parking space.
Okay.
There was a lot of concern around density. This particular parcel backs up very closely to just sort of traditional two-story
Yes.
townhomes. So the idea that we didn't want this project to be so hulking and massing to just tower over the Kimball Street neighbors. So the reduction in height was a main priority of the organization, and we were able to work with the developer who, in order to do it, had to eliminate a number of units, but committed to keeping the same number of parking spaces. And as Herc mentioned, they're well above what the code requires.
Yes.
And as to parking, we've been working with Councilman Johnson's office to, basically collect data on the parking situation in the neighborhood. We think we have some solutions. It's not going to be a panacea, but we have some initiatives that we're working with the councilman's office that we think will free up some parking for residents within the neighborhood. So hopefully, we can abate that issue a little bit.
Well, sensitivity and consideration of that is important because it simply speaks to the good faith on behalf of those who want to grow that community. And the issue of height, this isn't the first or 10th time that has come up. So to hear that there was some reconciliation around that issue for local residents is encouraging. I do pay attention to EOP plans, and on page 4 of your plan, it states that, and I quote, the EOP plan shall contain a statement from the contractor, developer, and/or recipient of financial assistance. Did I miss that in the document submitted, or is that coming later?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
On page 4, it states that that the document shall contain a statement from the contractor, developer, or recipient of the financial assistance. And so my question is, did I miss it in these docs here? Or is that coming later?
We may be talking about two different EOPs. There's two EOPs. Are we talking about the same one that, which one are you talking about?
So you're right, because this is 160-518.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me. So,
That's you, okay.
I believe that we'll work with OEO to make sure that we have everything. They provide the document, but we will get them anything they need.
A little more in the microphone. It's really.
I'm sorry. We signed the document. If there's additional documentation they need to go through the process, we'll happily do it, but we did sign the EOP as they presented to us.
You say you did sign one?
We did. It's signed here. My client signed it.
On 6/3/2016?
Yes. So I suspect that once we hire a general contractor and go through the process. That
Okay.
we'll deliver all of these statements
Okay.
as part of the compliance process.
Okay, all right then.
So,
that answers my subsequent question. The GM hasn't been identified, the general contractor?
no, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
All right then. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman?
Just for the record, Councilwoman, and my staff also, we working in partnership with EOP, and we meet monthly just to make sure we're reaching those goals as it
Okay.
relates to these two particular projects.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Thank you all very much. We'll move on to our next bill. The way it works here, just be clear, people have one statement. We can't go back and forth or we'll be here all day. Ms. Marconi, will you please read the title? We're going to do the next three bills together, so ma'am, you had one shot there. We don't have questions back and forth. No. Ms. Marconi, I'm going to ask you, please. We're finished with that testimony on those bills. We're going to move on to our next three. Please, Ms. Marconi, please read the title of the next three bills.
Bill number 160272, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by amending Section 14-905 entitled Non-Accessory Signs by adding a new subsection to permit one advertising sign with certain conditions within the area bounded by McGee Avenue, extended the Delaware River, Unruh Avenue, and New State Road. Bill number 160275, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by State Road, the Delaware Expressway, and Ashburner Street. And Bill number 160276, an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by amending Section 14-905 entitled Non-Accessory Signs by adding a new subsection to permit one advertising sign with certain conditions within an area bounded by State Road, the Delaware Expressway, and Ashburner Street.
Thank you. Ms. Gregorski, why don't you read your statements on all three, please?
Good morning, Chairman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill number 160272, which was introduced in the City Council on April 7, 2016, by Councilmember Heenan. Bill number 160272 will amend the code to allow a single 86 feet high, 1,200 square foot billboard to abut New State Road in the area generally bounded by McGee Avenue Extended, the Delaware River, Unruh Avenue, and New State Road. This billboard will be exempt from the height, takedown, area regulations, and distance from parks and recreational area requirements of the zoning code. The sign may only have static sign faces. Philadelphia City Planning Commission was supportive of the billboard regulations that were enacted in 1992, most of which carried over into the new zoning code enacted in 2012. The corner of New State Road and Unruh already has 4 outdoor advertising signs. Adding another will only add to the visual clutter of this area. Philadelphia City Planning Commission at its meeting of April 19, 2016, recommended Bill number 160272 not be approved. Bill number 160275 will rezone the area generally bounded by State Road, the Delaware Expressway, I-95, and Ashburner Street from its current SPPOA, Active Parks and Recreational, to a new designation of I-2 Medium Industrial. This rezoning will allow for the placement of a single-faced, non-accessory outdoor advertising sign on the property permitted by Companion Bill 160276. The City Planning Commission was supportive of the billboard regulations that were enacted in 1992, most of which carried over into the new zoning code enacted in 2012. The staff believes that taking an open piece of land and using it for a billboard represents poor land use. While Bill number 160275 attempts to limit the site only to the billboard use, the developer could easily subdivide the property to permit additional industrial uses. The City Planning Commission at its meeting of April 19, 2016, recommended Bill number 160275 not be approved. And Bill number 160276 would allow a single-faced, 55 feet high, 1,200 square foot billboard in the area described and as rezoned to I-2 Medium Industrial by Bill number 160275. This billboard would be exempt from the height, takedown, and area regulations requirements of the zoning code. The sign may advertise only southbound I-95 traffic, and it may be digital. The City Planning Commission was supportive of the billboard regulations enacted in 1992, most of which carried over into the new zoning code enacted in 2012. The staff believes that taking an open piece of land and using it for billboard represents poor land use. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission at its meeting of April 19, 2016, recommended Bill number 160276 not be approved. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
That's it, right? Okay, thanks, Mr. Gregorski. Any questions for Mr. Gregorski on these three bills? Councilwoman Sanchez?
I know you said that you guys are saying, one of your reasons is the clutter, because there's 4 other existing ones. I have a map here, and unless you can show me another map, I can't see where the other 4 that you're talking about. Are they directly adjacent?
Where I recognized there was 4, I went on Google Maps, and I found 4 others within eyeshot of that corner. 2 across the street, there's a large accessory sign adjacent to the site.
Okay, and when you're saying it adds to the clutter because it would be seen by the 95?
That was a different,
Okay, that was the other one. I'm
Yes.
trying to get it together because we have 3 different things here.
There's one that can only be signage for southbound I-95. And within eyeshot of that, there are a number of billboards as well.
So do we have promulgated policies around how many billboards per site, the Planning Commission?
There are spacing requirements in the billboard regulations of the zoning code. Mostly, they have to be 500 feet apart or 660 feet from ramps to I-95, 500 feet from residential areas or churches or schools.
And so this doesn't meet some of those requirements around schools?
These would not.
Right. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
Yes, you say that these 3 billboards do not meet the requirements as you just stipulated, but you don't say specifically which one of those requirements go up against the location of a billboard, so help us understand.
I think that the billboards proposed are both within too close of a distance to other billboards, and certainly the one on I-95 would be too close to residential areas.
No, it's all Keystone.
But I haven't done a full code review on everything.
That's why I called.
You have?
I have not done a full code review on all the other requirements.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Heenan?
Thank you. Just for a point of clarity, the too close to residential is a newly, so the billboard or outdoor advertising, billboard, the billboard that is in question is close to residential because of a piece of land adjacent was just rezoned residential. There's no residential development at the billboard, has been in place for some time, and with the state getting involved with some of the billboard regulations, I think they're just, trying to make sure that, that they are in good as existing legal standing, with the city code. So, in anticipation of that, they were there first, operating as a business in good standing in the city of Philadelphia. The adjacent land was rezoned recently.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilwoman Sanchez?
Yes, so the assertion around the parkland situation, this is protected land.
Pardon me? I'm not sure I understand your question.
Isn't this?
Okay, so the billboard, I think the councilwoman is talking about is non-existing at this point. It's the rezoning of a parcel that is zoned as parkland, that is in the city's inventory. The city is looking to sell its inventory, its surplus inventory for development. I think, in fact, that what is happening, what the intent here is to do is to preserve the actual parkland. I mean, it just happens to be a one parcel. The outdoor advertising, the billboard itself would be on an already existing paved parking lot that happens to be within the parameters of the parcel itself. There will be a deed restriction in the purchase of sale and an amendment that has been circulated to all members here stating that no other development on the site will take place, actually preserving parkland as well as prohibiting future subdivision of the property in any and in all circumstances. So we are, through this legislation, creating wildlife and parkland preservation, as opposed to where it's not now, where it's in the redevelopment surplus, which is up for purchase for anybody that wants to develop.
Is there a reason why the person requesting this doesn't purchase the land prior to this? Is there a reason they didn't? Was the Keystone Advertising, are they interested in purchasing this parcel at all?
They are purchasing it.
Oh, they are purchasing it.
They are going to purchase it, but for the purpose of the purchase, zoning would need to be changed because it's
Okay, so it's
currently
purchased
zoned.
based on zoning?
Correct.
And then for the record, the maintenance of the property, because based on what I'm seeing here, can you speak to that, Councilman Heenan? The proposed maintenance plan?
The proposed maintenance plan is simply to restrict any all construction and/or development on any pieces or parcel of the entire zoning change land that's going to be purchased. Maintenance will be strictly adhered to in accordance to the outdoor advertising laws of property maintenance code that are on the books. So it would strictly be for the erection of a sign that will actually generate taxes and revenue for the city of Philadelphia where non-existing now, and offered for community and public good as a result of advertising space. So the maintenance would be just customary maintenance on a sign as needed.
Thank you, that is
Okay,
all.
thank you. And Keystone is available here that will be testifying later, okay?
All
right, any other questions? All right, seeing none, Ms. Marconi, why don't you call up the names of the people who have asked to speak on these? We're going to call, the reason, just be clear, I called all three bills up together, was that they're obviously related, and I think a lot of the people want to have a comment on all three, so thought that would facilitate the discussion. Ms. Marconi, why don't you call those names?
Fred Maurer, Steve Pollock, Philip Gritzmacher, Michael McGettigan, Nancy Kearns, Mary Tracy, and Gregory Pastore.
Okay, all right. Who's coming up? Huh? No, we're going to have them first. No, after. One thing I would ask you, please be as brief as possible and just don't repeat what someone else said. And if you're commenting on one particular bill or all the bills, just state that too, okay? Whoever want to go first? Who
I'll be
wants to go
first. I'm Fred Maurer, and I have a copy for the clerk for her use.
Okay. You could submit that for the record, and then I'd ask you to just summarize your statement then, please.
And I want to read it because this is I only get one chance to talk on this matter. This is on Bill 1607276, and I call it the Pennypack Park Billboards Taking. My name is Fred Maurer, and I have studied this proposed ordinance. And I want to inform the Rules Committee that it is very flawed, and if adopted, it will be likely challenged and the ordinance be revoked. There is no findings of fact to demonstrate its needs and compliance to laws. It appears to be a private law for a secret unknown party, but private laws are not legal in the state. This bill smells very bad. If this bill sponsor is wise, he should withdraw it now and save face. This bill is clearly a piece of spot zoning as a de facto taking of public lands for a private uses. This is not an act of discretion under the ZBA. This law is offensive under state park laws. It is not a legal park concession, and the public will have no benefits as it will consume lands and introduce unwanted nuisances to the park users. This slice of land is already zoned as park land and cannot be rezoned for any other use because it is dedicated for the welfare of the public forever as a public park, and it is not managed by City Council for any other uses. As a public park land, it is not city park land for the city to be managed for any other use. Billboards are commercial uses and not park uses. Non-accessory signs for advertising are not park uses. All public park lands are protected under the Pennsylvania State Constitution, Article 1, Section 27. Zoning Code R and REC is a universal term in the state to define parklands as exempt from all other municipal codes. All public parks are protected in the Donated and Dedicated Property Act of 1953. The city cannot take a slice of land zone REC for a billboard use. And that's part of the Article 3, called the Donated Dedicated Property Act, which I won't read it to you. Basically, lands means all real estate, whether improved or unimproved, and is property held in trust. This is the public trust doctrine. All public parks are held under the public trust doctrine. That's called also the Philadelphia Museum's case as perpetual lands for public uses only. This includes all setbacks and reservations, including, or I should say, excluding billboard activities by the city, by streets, and other park setbacks. Some setbacks are 100 feet or 200 feet. They're all part of the setback protection. Pennypack Park is a designed landscape park with no surplus lands. And I will cite, there's a case on that in Philadelphia. It's called Shields versus City of Philadelphia, 1961, which defines that. This is the definition. A public park has often been repeated by cases of the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania that a public park is a tract of land kept more or less in its natural state, embellished by the planting of additional trees and flowers, and are devoted for the purpose of pleasures, recreation, and amusement. Public parks are recognized as a natural places for diversified athletic facilities. It is not essential that the entire community or any other considerable part of it should directly enjoy and participate in it to make it a public use. There is a legal due process. This draft ordinance was introduced without due process and is thus not timely. As Fairmount Park Commission, Pennypack land is managed as cities of the first class. The City Department of Streets, Department of Parks and Recreation, as a legislator, did not have public meetings and did not have a formal sunshine vote act on this. The Commission of Parks and Recreation, which did not have any considerations to file a report. Thus, until due process is done, the Rules Committee must wait. And I caution you that if the city fails to honor its public parks, then there will be plenty of precedents to use, including the recent case Burham Park, and maybe a penalty.
All right, thank you. Whoever would like to go next. Again, we have a few more bills after this, so please,
I understand.
with all due respect, try to be as brief as possible. Thank you.
Thank
Speak
you.
right in the microphone, because...
Thank you, Councilman Greenlee. My name is Nancy Kearns. I'm Vice President of Public Affairs for Friends of Pennypack. I've already submitted a written statement, which you have copies of, so I will not repeat the statement.
Thank you.
The Friends of Pennypack Park is opposed to this legislation for obvious reasons. We have contacted the RCO, which is Upper Holmesburg Civic Association. We let them know about our opposition to this. We know as of last night, because I was speaking to them, we were going to get a lot of people down here for this. However, they were in talks with Councilman Heenan as late as yesterday, trying to have this legislation postponed, and they were unable to do so. So I'd just like to state that for the record. And thank you for
Okay.
reading our
Thank you.
statement.
And you're talking about all three, or you talking about one particular?
I'm talking about 160275 and 160276. 272, I think, refers to 6601 State Road, which is not
Okay,
particularly near our heart.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Phil Kritzmacher. I am a member of the Friends of Pennypack Park. I came down to express my support of the Friends of Pennypack Park in opposition to bills number 160, 275, and 276. We have a limited amount of open space in our community, and it's a bad move to rezone the open space to industrial use and permit the billboards to be erected.
Okay.
I also am gratified to hear that the Philadelphia City Planning Commission also agrees that this is a poor land use planning operation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, thank you all. Thank you all. Next group. And could I ask whoever's name was called, either come up to the table or sit right in these black chairs so we can, again, try to move things. Who else we have here? Ms. Pastore, you want to come up again? Okay, just sit there. Sir, in the back, no, I guess not. Okay, whoever wants to go next, please identify yourself and proceed. Again, please try to be brief.
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon, or morning still. No, good afternoon, Councilman Greenlee and the respected members of the Rules Committee. My name is Mary Tracy, and I am the president of Scenic America, and I'm also the executive director of Scenic Philadelphia, formerly called Scrub, Society Created to Reduce Urban Blight. And Councilman Greenlee, before I get started into the nuances of this, and I will be brief, but we will I'd like to cover, I've done a lot of preparation to explain to council what's really going on here. But I do remember,
obviously that can be.
I do remember first meeting you back in 1990 when you worked in Councilman Cohen's office, and Florence Cohen and the councilman had, a huge group of people from the business community, from the residential community, from the health community, and they all wanted to get better sign control laws. And it took them over a year to actually get the laws passed, but we were very pleased with those laws because it finally put in the kinds of protections that we so desperately needed in the city. Those protections included distances from people's homes, sizes, heights, appropriate places, inappropriate places, places where if there were billboards and they were legal, they would now be considered non-conforming and couldn't change their size or shape. And one of the greatest protections that we had was the distances from parks. And there is a 660-foot required distance from any billboard, from a park, from a playground, from a school. And as a result of those protections, we were able to get rid of 1,000 billboards in our most vulnerable neighborhoods, because there were a lot of illegal billboards during that time, and there still are. The first bill that I would like to talk about, because I think there's a lot of confusion, and that's the billboard on New State Road. I'd like to just hand up, let's see, I brought a couple things here, so excuse me for one moment till I just explain to you what I'm handing up here. Is there someone who can share this? The first document is really from Claire Gatzmer back in 2002. And that document basically is a letter to the owner of 6601 New State Road. It was a truck company, basically saying that their zoning permit had been revoked, that the Common Pleas Court reversed it, and it was also upheld by the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania. And as a result of those decisions, and this letter is 2002, that sign was illegal and needed to come down. So since 2002, all the court decisions having been exhausted, that sign should have come down. Then and it didn't. I mean, obviously it's still there. But And I actually would like for the record to put a copy of the, I don't have a copy for everyone, I'd be happy to make it, give you one, the actual Common Pleas decision and the Commonwealth decision, which tells you why it was considered illegal, and one of the reasons is because it's within 660 feet of Tacony Park. And it was taller than it was allowed and larger than allowed, and there were other billboards within 500 feet, as I recall. So, fast forward another year, and you have, here, this is another one I just want to get you all a copy of. You have an order, actually, from Judge Silverstein, from the civil decision of the First Judicial District, and basically finding that Keystone needed to remove that billboard, and for every day that they didn't remove it, can you pass that around too? That there would be a $150 fine per day for every day that sign remains standing. Now, I don't have the exact moment in time because I think we figured this out last week, but had the city actually enforced that and it's not been removed, we've gone by 5,124 days. 5,124 days since that court order, which would accrue to about $768,600 for fines. Now, the City Council is looking for money, and I think if we really looked at some of the illegal signs out there and we really enforced that $150 a day sign for illegal signs, there's some money in those signs, all right. Far surpassing the $2 million a year or so they pay in their excise taxes and the $50 a year that they pay for a license fee. So, I think it's something to think about. But in terms of this bill, this is a court case that Keystone lost. And this is a case that the law department did not enforce. And to me, you win some, you lose some. But this is one that was won. And here we are today, how many years? 2002, 14 years later, and this same billboard company is coming here to council and has the audacity to ask for you to legalize that sign. And why? Because finally the state is coming in and saying, those court decisions, we're going to take those signs down. And so this is a last-ditch effort to keep an illegal sign standing. And you can argue, well, it's on I-95, oh, it's an industrial area, but guess what? Right next door now is a charter school. It's being built. And one of the places we tried to protect our students from was digital, was advertising, were billboards. This isn't even just a little old billboard. This is a digital billboard that will be flashing into their schoolroom. And it's still across the park. The park has not moved. That Tacony Park is still there. So I would really ask you not to approve this bill, because I think it goes against this body as a lawmaker and the courts of this land, the state courts, the city courts, and the citizens who worked so hard to get this passed. So that's it for, that is my testimony on 160276. Oh no, I'm sorry, these are so confused. I'm confused, and
That's 272, correct?
272. 272 is the one that would legalize a billboard that has been illegal for 14 years.
And Ms. Tracy, I'll just interrupt you for a second. We do have a letter that was submitted by the Mass Science and Technology Community Charter School in support of the bill.
Well, it's good for them. Basically, though, the law is not a popularity contest. The law is the law.
I'm just stating on record what it was. Please proceed with the next bill.
So the next one, really, those two really are together. The first one is taking parks and open space land and turning it into industrial. And this is in, I think I sent up, let me get that one up there. I've got one more here. I really thought I would testify separately, so I apologize for the delay here, but here's another one, sorry. This one, I basically wanted to just show you. You can see in this photo, Pennypack Creek is running through there. And we know, going back, the Pennypack Park has been around, I think we said, since 1905. And one of the reasons we even have Fairmount Park, let alone Pennypack Park, is because we want to protect the water systems of our city. And that's becoming even more evident with what's going on in Detroit and many cities. We need to protect our water. And this particular parcel is in the buffer zone for the Pennypack Creek. Now, one of the arguments is, well, they already cemented a little piece of it. Well, that was done illegally. And so instead of saying, hey, get that back and plant some trees and stop parking your trucks there, we're saying, well, it's already over, cemented over, so what's the harm of a billboard going up there? Well, I mean, some of that harm is that you now have a billboard at the entranceway to the Pennypack, the Green Park, and you're actually, I know these companies, if you let one go, you have to let them all go, or they'll all be here before you. There'll be so many more bills. I think we have to draw a line and say, no, there are some places, maybe billboards have a place, but that place is not every place, and it's certainly not in areas that's zoned parkland. And also keep in mind that, the Highway Beautification Act, Lady Bird's bill, basically says you cannot rezone an area just to allow a billboard. So even if you went ahead and did this, it turns out, I think that Highway Beautification Act is going to come into play. And once again, the city's going to look like, oh, they keep trying, city council, they keep passing these laws that really make no sense because they're not allowed to do it. I think it's time to stop doing that. We have a lot of big issues in this city, and I think we need to stop kowtowing to the billboard industry because there are already 1,900 billboards. And I think it's time, as a world-class city, that we start cleaning up our gateways and we start beautifying our cities. And we stop thinking, oh, it's I-95, oh, it's 76, that's where they belong. Well, maybe a couple belong there, but have you taken a ride along those roads lately? I'm embarrassed as a person that does this for a living. People come to my city and say, what are you doing here in Philly, Mary? We have a problem here with billboards, and this is just going to make it worse. So that takes care of the parcel. And then the billboard itself would be, even if you did turn that into industrial zoning, we've still got the big problem of it's within 660 feet of parkland. And that's the one area that we've really kind of held true to all these years. We're protecting our parks. We're protecting our schools. We're trying to protect our residences. And if, in case none of you have had a chance to see a digital billboard from someone's home or been driving down the roadway and been somewhat blinded because they're too bright, we have some work to do in that. But I think we have to really think about, this is a different breed of billboard that we're allowing here in both places. And that billboard is higher than it's allowed, and so is the other one, by the way, since we're doing all three billboards together, almost twice as high as it's allowed. So it towers over our city. It blocks viewscapes. It is something that people can see from many, many blocks away, if not even miles. So I would strongly urge this Rules Committee not to let this bill go any further. Don't waste council's time and the citizens' time. I think you've already gotten about 280 letters, phone calls. I mean, people don't like the idea of changing parkland into industrial for a billboard. They also don't like the idea of legalizing billboards that have lost long, long ago. I think we're all looking to say, let's get real about the law here. Let's start enforcing it, and let's really make our city as beautiful as it can be. Thank you.
I have a question.
If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So, Ms. Tracy, how long have you been involved with the mission of, what's the former name of your organization?
Scrub.
How long have you been involved with Scrub?
1990, Councilwoman.
And if you had to grade the city in 1990 on a scale of 5 to 1, with 5 being the greatest, how would you grade our city at that time?
5 being the best and 1 being the worst?
Yes.
0.
Okay. And so, 1990 to 2016, where's the mathematician in the room? How many years are we later?
14.
Okay.
Oh, after, well, 1992.
No, from 1990 to 2016, what's the number?
26 years I've been doing this.
Okay. So 26 years later, how would you grade our city now?
0.
Based on what?
Based on the fact, I wouldn't say L&I has been doing a great job. Based on the fact that although these billboards are cited for not being in compliance, when it gets kicked up to the law department does not enforce the law, and in fact, in many times, they
So you
help.
believe we've had no improvement at all in 26 years?
Oh, I think we've had great, if we're talking about Scrub's
We as a
success.
city of Philadelphia.
Okay, if that would include the citizens and Scrub, I'd say we've had great success, because we've gotten rid of 1,000 illegal billboards in the neighborhoods. We've stopped wall wraps from going up. We've prevented new billboards going up in a lot of areas, but it wasn't necessarily because of the city. The zoning board gave the variances, and it was only because we appealed them, and we had to go to the higher courts to get those decisions.
So my final question, in your 26 years of being affiliated with this organization, can you think of one instance where the installation of a billboard was appropriate, in good order, and a win-win for everybody?
I would say there are a couple instances where they're just allowed. I mean, I'm just saying, let's enforce the law. And there was one where it was a hardship. Yes, there was one along, I think it was State Road, and it was a parcel that this particular property owner had gotten from the city because they took another parcel, and there really, truly wasn't anything else that he could do with it. And so the billboards went there, and I don't think that they were, particularly harmful. So, and then there was another one where I think Clear Channel took down 5 billboards in Powelton Village and put up a billboard, I think it was in Bridesburg, and I don't think it...
So those are the two instances in 26
Offhand, I mean, I would have to go back through the records. I don't really... There are a lot of billboards we've been dealing with over these 26 years, you can only imagine.
Thank you, Councilwoman. All right, who else wants to say something? Please.
Hello?
Identify yourself and proceed.
Yeah, my name is Michael McEdigan, 627 South 27th Street, 19146. Good afternoon, members of council and the Rules Committee. My son was educated in Philadelphia Public Schools. He's now in Haverford College. He's a typical modern young person. I hope he chooses to live in this great city. And the other day he came home and said, "Hey, Dad, guess what I saw on a billboard today?" No, this didn't happen. And no 20-year-old has ever done so or will ever do so. Billboards are the walking dead. The mobile device that I've got here, who doesn't have a mobile device in this room, please raise your hand. Anybody not?
Sir, talk to us, please. Come on.
Just trying to get a sense of, we're talking about billboards as a medium. The mobile device is the future of marketing. It's targeted, efficient, and it provides value alongside of advertising. Billboards are carpet bombing. This is a cruise missile era. Offering special considerations like these 3 bills to grease the skids and keep an industry stumbling along doesn't just hurt our city's image. It actually hurts your image, City Council, because special deals for a dying industry. I'll wait till you're done. Special deals for a dying industry, they make council look archaic and less than fair to both Philadelphians and businesses who are considering Philadelphia as a place to locate when they see this kind of stuff sliding through. If you ever read the comments, it's painful, but read the comments on a billboard story and see what's being said about council. You are part of the face of Philadelphia. The billboard industry, I heard that word used even by Mary Tracy here, it barely qualifies as such. I think the word cartel might be a better term. They employ few people. They profit by blighting our city's branding. These new gigantic TV screens, they won't even need industrial crews. Most of these billboard agencies are non-union, by the way. They'll flip a switch somewhere to change what's up there. So these are hardly jobs bills. It's been said they'll bring some tax money in, but we really had to balance that against the loss of value of our parks and anybody's property who was near there. I couldn't bring a billboard, but let's see. This will just give you a rough idea. This is...
sir, come on.
There,
come on.
Just
Put
see if
that
you
off,
can concentrate.
please.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we've had billboards demoed in here.
Put it off.
Okay, it's very distracting. It's very distracting, I'm sorry.
All right?
Yeah. Okay, so what if maybe I get through and we cast out the billboards? Yeah, let's see. 1, 2, you got the idea though. And that's just, that's what 1 pixel. So, if you maybe I get through somehow, or the next group of council people, and they cast out the billboards. We will not lose a dollar in tax or media money. We're one of the biggest media markets in the country. All that money will be shifted to spending at deserving media, our local print and electronic media, which provide a public service alongside with the embedded ads. Billboards are a taking of property values, of views, of drivers' vital attention to the road. Please don't support billboards. Let them be disrupted and die off like any other obsolete business. It is time for a sea change at City Council on billboards. Thank you very much.
Ms. Pastor, please.
Thank you for letting me testify. Greg Pastor, 619 Pemberton Street. You probably don't know, I was on the Zoning Code Commission. And if you do, you probably don't know how obsessive I was about it. I do have a love-hate relationship with zoning. I tend to hate it, but it does serve a purpose. I do think that both of these billboards, existing and proposed, they both exemplify like a failure of basic city government functions. When you have an existing billboard, we'll call it that because it's there, it's an illegal billboard. It was never legal. It probably shouldn't have been granted variance. The court agreed with that way back in the day, struck it down, and it's been there ever since. It doesn't meet all the requirements for being a billboard, and I'll come back to that in a bit. So call it the existing billboard, and then you have the new billboard. The new billboard doesn't even exist yet, so we're talking about an unforced error to create one. And I respect what everybody said so far, but Councilman Hina did mention the fact that there's state oversight of the billboards. We haven't had final legislation for how we deal with billboard issues. I understand there are constitutional issues. I understand that there are rights that property owners have. I understand that billboard companies have some kind of rights. I'm not going to talk about whether I like them or not. Billboard companies, billboards, whatever. This is about process. The new billboard, to use that one, the one that's not there yet, we're talking about PRA property. So it's the government's property, which means it's ours. So even if you want to buy the argument that we don't have settled law about billboards, we're going to get sued, yada, 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 we have no obligation to actually unload property that we own, so that somebody can then exercise a putative right to put a billboard up on it. So the non-existing new billboard, as it were, is something that doesn't even fall under any kind of rubric of whether there's any legal right to have a billboard at the legal level, at the constitutional level, at the court level. And I will say that Ms. Tracy's right in saying that you put a billboard there and not only are you setting a precedent, but what you're really saying is, man, we own our own land, we sold it to someone to put up a new billboard, we don't have settled billboard law, how the heck are you ever going to stop anybody from putting up a billboard in this town? You're not going to be able to do it. Even if when I talked about a failure of government, there was on this new billboard site an encroachment. The adjacent property owner, right, paid over a little of it to park on. Nobody ever did anything to him about it, right? So he's just using it to park on or something. So even if you wanted to sell it and monetize it, you could sell it and monetize it with a deed restriction that says you can keep the parking there. You'd probably end up selling it to the adjacent property holder. You wouldn't sell it to Keystone because they don't want to park anything on it. They want to put a billboard there.
Ms. Pastor, if I could ask you to wrap up, please, because we still have some bills.
I understand you do.
Okay? All right, so I appreciate it.
Also, one of these is a rezoning, and two of them are code changes. And this is very important, because the new billboard can't even go there because it's not zoned industrial, which allows billboards under certain circumstances. But both billboards need legislation, that's spot legislation, that specifically it eliminates the need for them to meet the standards of billboards. When you have a zoning code, some of it's the district. That's what your property's in. My property is owned R1 where my house is. It allows a single-family house. It has standards. It can be so tall, it can be so deep, etc. There are billboard standards, spacing requirements for billboards, height, size, all of those things, brightness. When you pass legislation to change those standards for a property, that is the epitome of spot zoning. Spot zoning is something that's done to a parcel without the benefit of planning. Prima facie, if the planning commission is against it, it doesn't benefit from planning. But basically what you should, a takeaway from this should be, if you open your zoning code and you see a portion of it that refers to a place, and it's not in an overlay, it's just in general standards, and it refers to a place, that is spot zoning. And that will, on the back of a napkin, you can strike that law down in court if you want. It's just, it's really, really bad legislation, the way it's proposed. You have to meet...
I'm going to answer you, I'm going to give you 30 more seconds.
Okay, you have to meet all the standards. The question was asked by a couple of council people about, well, does it violate all the spacing requirements? It's not about violating all of them. If you violate any provision of the zoning code for a proposal of zoning, it doesn't meet the law. So this bill is to do spot zoning to avoid a few things. Just because it might not be too close to a school or something, one of the things, that's not good enough. Do yourself a favor, open the code, look at the requirements that go with the billboard, and then look at the legislation and see how they dovetail. You don't want to micromanage this with this kind of legislation. You're causing legal problems down the road for us, and it is spot zoning.
Okay.
And it's unnecessary.
I'm going to have to call you a time on that.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. Okay, thank you. No questions? Okay. Mr. Felici, did you want to make any kind of statement? I'm going to ask you please to be brief, because we have two other bills where people have been waiting a long time to speak on. I know it's always dangerous to ask an attorney to be brief, but, I'm going to give it a shot.
We'll try and live up to that.
Okay, I appreciate that.
We have an easel and we have handouts.
You guys are scaring me already with all this.
Well, just one set, it says Bill 1602. We have two packets. One packet addresses the aerial views and views of the new state road.
Just, you got to state your name.
Say my name and address.
Keep talking, but yes.
Stephen Pollock, Esquire, attorney for Keystone Outdoor, 1818 Market Street, Philadelphia, PA. I have with me Mr. Joseph Felici, who is the vice president for Keystone Outdoor. And we just wanted to get everybody an overview really quickly of what it looks like. And then we'll get into trying to respond to some of the comments and just put briefly a case. So, Joe? Is he going to be recorded?
No, you're going to have to get on a microphone. Do we have a microphone he can hold? You're going to have to get on a microphone somewhere or another.
Can we take, you can't take that out, unfortunately.
I think you can take it out.
I can hold it. You can take it out. Can you take it out?
Hey, we got one here. We got one here.
I got it.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, please proceed. Just identify yourself and proceed.
Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. We'll start out with the existing sign at 6601 New State Road. Is this working?
Yeah, it's working. Go ahead.
Okay, and that's bill number 160272. Exhibit A shows an aerial photograph showing the existing sign and the surrounding area. And as you can see, it's in a highly industrial area. I know the Planning Commission mentioned there's a number of billboards. In this overview, there's only the existing that's shown in the center and this billboard that advertises to I-95. So there are two billboards advertising to 95 in this large aerial photograph. To the left of the existing sign is where the proposed mass school is going. And when this sign was constructed, that property was zoned industrial.
Okay.
It's now been rezoned residential.
Okay.
Recently.
Well, not the site.
The next exhibit is showing the existing sign at close-up and the surrounding area. Again, highly industrial, excuse the road construction. You have the gentleman's club in the background. Again, just showing the flavor of the neighborhood.
Okay.
What are the other uses, Joe?
All right, we have all these handouts. You don't have to go over each
Okay.
one.
Okay.
We'll stay with
Because
this.
we'll, if the committee has any questions about it, they can ask.
All right.
Okay?
I'd like to say that when you ask for a charge in front of a jury, you ask for the judge to give you a charge. If they're false in uno, false in one, they're false in all. And what I'd like to do is hand up to you the actual civil docket for the enforcement action the city brought against this particular sign, to show you the status and show you that what Mrs. Tracy, or Miss Tracy, categorizes as that fines were levied. Yes, the fines were levied, but a few days later, the judge stayed the order, and as of the last, and you'll look at the last page, the hearing has been stayed, remanded back to the Zoning Board of Adjustment to hear constitutional issues. It went up to the Commonwealth Court, and I could give you the case, the Commonwealth
That's okay. Go ahead.
Commonwealth Court case. The Commonwealth Court remanded it back. Judge Silberstein was the judge. He said, all right, based on this, I was premature for me to issue any fines, and therefore I'll remand it back to the Zoning Board because you're going to challenge the validity of the underlying ordinance as to whether or not the whole outdoor advertising ordinance was constitutional at the time. So I'd like to just hand up to the panel, to the committee, and if you look at pages 7, first of all, you'll see where the order was definitely issued. We're not disputing that the order was issued as Ms. Tracy describes it. But if you then go at the bottom of page 7, it talks about that. But if you go to the bottom of page 9, the top of page 9, you'll see, and now this 7th day of January, the order of this court dated December 19 shall be stayed pending the resolution of the defendant's appeal before the Commonwealth Court. And if you look back at number 7, you'll see that was the order of December 19, 2003. If you go to the very last page, you'll see the status of this case. So what I'm saying to you is, Ms. Tracy went as far as about page 7, but as we've learned in the law, there were 7 other pages
So
for her
you're
to
saying
read.
as of now, there is no...
As of now, there's
okay.
no action.
All right. Gotcha.
And it should be remanded back to the zoning board. What also happened with regard to this, you need more? Okay.
Not the same, no, that's all right.
Okay. What also happened was that at the time when this was first presented, the Tacony Civic Association on August 18th, 1997, this was in the days before RCOs, but back in the day where you still went to the Central Civic Association, issued this letter from their attorney. Their attorney happens to be somebody who will be very well known to people who've been in the zoning world as well as the billboard world. Their attorney was Judith Eden, who went on to become a member of the zoning board, but Judith represented Tacony Civic, and I'll hand this up to the committee, and it's a letter where the Civic Association showed their support for the variance if it did certain following things, which was not advertise tobacco products, not advertise alcoholic beverages, including liquor or beer, or adult entertainment. That has happened since 1997. That has never been the case where any time has there been any kind of advertising of that nature. But this had original support by the Civic Association. As Ms. Tracy has said, her group was very successful with regard to litigation in certain areas. But then came the famous change in the state statutes that took out taxpayer standing. If there was taxpayer standing, there would not have been a reversal of this decision, because Mary Tracy's organization would not have had standing to challenge this. The immediate Civic Association had entered into an agreement that said, we're okay as long as you don't advertise other things. So what we're saying is that since that point, what happened was there was a consent agreement that the city entered into with the entire billboard industry, including Keystone. Keystone has been able to get, and I'll hand these up, a contractor's license, regular licenses for this particular sign all these years based on the consent agreement. That gets reviewed, it was reviewed routinely by L&I, reviewed routinely to see if it was in compliance. So all the years this has happened. So now here we are coming to you in the situation for New State Road to say, now that the consent agreement expired as to Keystone as of the January 2nd of this year, 2016, that we're trying to justify, support something that's been there since 1997, basically, and really hasn't done anything to generate any kind of the nuisances that have happened. I know that Councilman Heenan, I believe you do have it, and if you do, then I won't belabor it, that the zoning has been approved for the lot next door, but that allows Mass 2 to have a charter school. If you need the letter, I can give it to you again, but Mass 2 has indicated they have no...
No, I put that on record earlier. We have that.
Okay.
We have that. So that was submitted earlier. Okay. Why
Those
don't we move to the other two bills?
That's my testimony with regard to that bill. We'll move to the second one.
All right.
I would like to add, Mr. Mancini was not listed as a speaker, but Mr. Vince Mancini is a fellow member of the bar and would like to address the other two bills.
Okay. Just identify yourself for the record, please.
If it may please the committee, I'm going to...
Just state your name for the record, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Vincent Mancini. I'm the co-counsel for Keystone. Just by way of background, there's been much said about dedication of this park. There is no dedication. Dedication is when a particular individual grants or conveys a piece of property and specifies a particular use, and then it becomes a public domain and you get the trust concept. This property, back in 1933, when the city first passed its zoning ordinance, was zoned I-industrial. It's remained I-industrial through the 60s, and I believe probably through the 70s. In 1973, this area was redeveloped by the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority. The city of Philadelphia conveyed this property to the Redevelopment Authority, and it has held it in 1973, and it has held it as such, presumably as a leftover parcel from all the industrial redevelopment there. And at some time, the property was rezoned from I-industrial to SPB POA, and so the Redevelopment Authority is basically left with holding a property that it really can't use pursuant to its statutory purpose, that is, to redevelop. And it's also a property that can't be used as a park because the topography is horrible. I've walked it. It's isolated, and it's floodplain prone. It's basically of only value is to keep it as green space, and also there's a lot of vagrants and things that go on underneath the I-95 overpass. But the point that I'm trying to make is that this was not a particular parkland that was dedicated and subject to the public trust. Secondly, the rezoning of this property makes eminent sense because it takes a burden away from the RDA. It puts it into private hands. The property becomes taxable again. The liability now rests with a private individual as opposed to a public entity. And again, it makes eminent sense because the RDA should not be holding this type of property.
Okay, I get that point.
Now,
could you move on to the third
okay,
bill,
now,
please?
sure. And as far as the benefits to the city and to the community, number one, this property would remain completely green. It was going to be, the billboard's going to be constructed on, the aerial photograph shows where it's on a paved area. The economic benefit to the RDA would be, of course, the initial purchase price, but there's also real estate taxes that comes on board, the 7% excise tax to the city, and the public still has green open space, because there's nothing that's going to be done on that property. And because again, there's no further the development and no further subdivision. We're working with the community for providing a benefit to the to the relevant community in question. Those negotiations are still ongoing.
That's Upper Holmesburg, correct?
That's correct. You know, again, Ms. Tracy indicates that, well, the world-class cities don't have billboards. What world-class city has she been going to? In New York, if you're going to build something in, what is it, the square up there, you practically have to have your entire building covered in digital billboards just to generate the light. And now, it's also curious that there was a statement that Scrub was against billboards and all, but you know, Mary Tracy has taken, and Scrub has taken contributions to withdraw their opposition to 4 billboards back in around 2000 to the tune of $500,000. So
that's been put on record before.
Okay, then the other things that are relevant here, excuse me, the illumination is also, there's discussion about residentials. There are no residential areas in this particular location. The billboard faces north. The illumination of the sign faces north. It goes strictly to commercial, industrial locations. It's a single-face billboard, and the back is blacked out and blocked by trees, and the residences are thousands of feet south of there. So that has no significance. I submit to the committee that the proposed use of this property makes eminent sense to put it back into some kind of productive status, while at the same time keeping it green, and this does that.
Okay.
Thank you.
We would just ask for suspension of the rules if we need to.
Okay, we know how that works, too. Okay, any questions?
Just a comment.
Comment, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown?
Excuse me, may I have one additional item?
Yeah.
There's been discussion by...
You're going to have to speak in, we can't... All right, make quickly, please.
This is significant in this sense. Ms. Tracy has said that the passage of the action of this council would somehow violate the Beautification Act. Well, frankly, the Beautification Act did nothing more than create some regulations that were adopted by Pennsylvania. So the next question becomes, does PennDOT have any say in the zoning proceedings of this city or any municipality? And the answer is basically no. And the case that I just handed up is Penn Advertising, Inc. versus the Department of Transportation. In that case, there was a billboard, a municipality rezoned property to accommodate a billboard along a federal highway. PennDOT refused to grant a permit, saying, oh, well, it goes against the spirit of the statute, the beautification statute. The Commonwealth Court said, no, zoning is a local matter. You don't look behind it. If it complies with the zoning, it's commercial, industrial, it's okay.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Councilwoman, you had a comment?
Yeah, I do want to say, clarity is always important for us as we carefully look at these matters, and to provide the legal history was quite a teachable moment, so I thank you for that. But also to hear that, that this is going to remain green matters as well. So that needs to be underscored as a part of the testimony. Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much.
Right,
Thank you.
Councilman Greenlee, one last statement. The existing sign will remain static. It is not going to be digital.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Marconi, got 2 more bills here. Let's move to the next bill, please. Thank you all very much.
Bill number 160299, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Ridge Avenue, Hermit Street, Henry Avenue, and Lincoln Drive.
Mr. Gregorski.
Good afternoon, Councilman Greenlee, member of the Rules Committee, Marty Gregorski, City Planner with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission, here to testify on Bill Number 160299, which was introduced in the City Council on April 14, 2016, by Councilmember Jones. Bill Number 16299 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by remapping an area bounded by Ridge Avenue, Hermit Street, Henry Avenue, and Lincoln Drive. The bill is intended for corrective remapping purposes and advancement of the goals and recommendations of the Lower Northwest District Plan adopted by the Planning Commission in December 2014. To this end, the remapping proposes the following actions. Zoning to advance the plan. Remap commercial nodes to CMX2, commercial mixed use, to encourage new uses in underperforming commercial mixed-use buildings. Preserve the neighborhood character and encourage context-sensitive infill development. And corrective zoning, match existing uses and lot sizes with proper zoning classifications. Planning Commission staff has worked closely with Councilman Jones' staff, as well as the leadership of the Wissahickon Interested Citizens Association on this remapping. Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill Number 160299 at its meeting of May 17, 2016, and recommended it for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, Ms. Marconi, will you read the names of who I'll say asked to speak? Sorry, mister.
Jeffrey Allegret, Vaughn Piccolo, and Linda Di Stefano.
Mr. Agretti, we have your written testimony, so if you could just summarize, I appreciate it, interest of time here. Please, proceed.
Thank you. My name is Jeffrey Allegretti. I'm a long-term resident of Wissahickon, a long-term active member of the Civic Association, and currently the chair of the Zoning Committee. I'm here to express WICA's support for this bill and to thank the councilman and the City Planning Commission for their assistance in helping us as a community understand the nuances of zoning. And I'll just say three things in the interest of time. One is that this is a year-long planning process that had a very large group of people involved and was very carefully considered, facilitated by the councilman's staff and guided by the Planning Commission. And so we're very confident about the benefit of the remapping. The other thing I'll say is that I've been doing this for 30 years. I've spent so much time at the ZBA that they should be charging me rent. And this is, I've been really waiting 30 years for this bill because the 1974 law was so flawed that it just created a succession of variance requests so that we had to incrementally manage the poor choices made by investors in the neighborhood. And finally, you will hear from the agent for the owner of 90 Rochelle, an industrial parcel, about an acre of ground that borders the train tracks in the Wissahickon, with whom we've been working for the last 8 months on a succession of residential use requests by two different entities. I'm going to anticipate that the interest will be to keep this parcel remaining industrial. We spent a lot of time thinking about this parcel. It is intended to be rezoned for residential, which I would think increases its value in a manner that is consistent with the adjoining properties that surround it. So any suggestion that it is in the interest of the owner to continue this as a residential use flies in the face of the considerable efforts that the owner and the agent have made to engage the community on residential uses. So I just want to put that out there as historical context, and I thank you again.
You have a comment, Mr. Councilman Johnson?
Yeah, I don't represent this particular area that the project, where the project is being developed, but I've worked with Innova developers in the second councilmanic district, specifically around the issue of affordable housing. And so they're one of the premier builders that's on the forefront that take a special interest in trying to provide affordable housing throughout, at least in my area, the second councilmanic district, and obviously other parts of Philadelphia. So I would be remiss about it and at least acknowledge that while I saw Mr. Jeff Allegretti giving his testimony.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Piccolo, again, we have your statement also.
Correct, yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Vaughn Piccolo, Secretary of the Wissahickon Interested Citizens Association, or WICA. We're the neighborhood RCO. I'm here to testify in support of Bill 160299. I'm a lifelong resident of Northwest Philadelphia and have been an active member of WICA for about a year and a half, and for the past year I've been on their board. And in my experience, there's been no other project that's garnered more interest amongst the members of the civic and the neighbors than the remapping of the interior of the neighborhood, which emphasizes how important this bill is to the residents. The Planning Commission brought the proposal to WICA. We made some comments. They revised their plan and then presented it to the neighborhood in an open and advertised meeting where further comments were made. So there was a long process of community input that the proposal has already transversed. The plan was met with overwhelming support at the neighborhood meeting and at the subsequent meetings of the Civic Association, so much so that we voted unanimously to support the bill. I personally feel that it's much needed to preserve the desirable characteristics of the neighborhood and to spur some additional commercial use that it's lacking. To echo the sentiments on 90 Rochelle, this is a parcel that is inconsistently zoned as light industrial. The Planning Commission's proposal was to correct that to match the use of the adjacent lots and to better fit with the neighborhood characteristics. And we met, the point is that we went through the same process, and we would like the plan to go through as proposed.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ma'am, please state your name.
I'll make it very, very brief. My name is Linda DiStefano. I am here with my Aunt Rita Capabianco, and we are representing 90 Rochelle, which she is the owner. We are asking that the property remain light industrial. If the zoning is changed, it would be totally worthless. This is all she has. She has no other income but that property. The city of Philadelphia has rented that property for the past 16 years. The RHD, and unfortunately, they left. They went down to 4500 Wissahickon Avenue, but they were fabulous tenants, but now the building is empty, and we're looking for new tenants to come in. This is her only means of income, and if the zoning is changed, we're just asking for that to remain the same, light industrial, that's all we're asking. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Seeing none. Anyone else here testify on this bill? Seeing none. Ms. Marconi, our last bill.
Thank you.
Please. Thank you.
Bill number 160516, an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within area bounded by Henry Avenue, Coulter Street, Schoolhouse Lane, Wissahickon Avenue, and Lincoln Drive, and certain areas of land located within area bounded by Henry Avenue, Warden Drive, Calumet Street, Merrick Street, Gypsy Lane, and Schoolhouse Lane. Further, to adopt the master plan for Philadelphia University and approving various construction projects.
Mr. Gregorski.
Good afternoon, Councilman Greenlee, members of the Rules Committee. I'm Marty Gregorski, Division Director with the Development Division of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. Here to testify on Bill number 160516, which was introduced in the City Council on May 19, 2016 by Councilmember Jones. Bill number 160516 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land generally bounded by Henry Avenue, Coulter Street, Schoolhouse Lane, Wissahickon Avenue, and Lincoln Drive, and certain areas of land generally bounded by Henry Avenue, Warden Drive, Calumet Street, Merrick Street, Gypsy Lane, and Schoolhouse Lane, all to SPINS, Institutional Special Purpose District. This bill intends to rezone Philadelphia University to a more appropriate classification that better fits the university's needs both now and into the future. Bill number 160516 will also adopt the master plan for Philadelphia University, approving an additional 423,000 square feet of gross floor area for a number of different projects across campus. It should be noted that at this point, relief from the Wissahickon watershed overlay and the steep slopes provision would be necessary prior to the issuance of any permits. This bill will be heard by the City Planning Commission at its June 14th meeting, where our staff will request an additional 45 days to review Bill number 160516, so that the civic design review process can be completed prior to an expected approval for the master plan. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Gregorski. I was remiss earlier not to mention another member of the committee, Councilman Jones, has been present, and we recognize Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that pound for pound, probably this was the most discussed piece of zoning legislation in my district. And I want to thank the community, stakeholders, and Philadelphia University for sticking it out in the process. I learned a great deal. I learned about urban universities and semi-suburban universities and how they design in different densities. I learned about how if you get proper input and experts that know what they're talking about, you can come up with compromise and maintain 50-foot and better fronts so that you don't encroach upon other people who invested in that community's lifestyle by changing the dynamics of their home. I learned about how to build on a spine of a building, an existing spine, and how we can take those kinds of opportunities like what was done in Chestnut Hill in the 8th District and try to apply some of that. I also learned that it is not easy finding compromise. And I just once again want to thank all of the people that were involved, that took their time. Many of them weren't paid, but cared deeply about their neighborhood to come up with some compromise. And what I also learned, Mr. Chairman, was that you probably got it right when everybody's a little mad.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Can't please everybody 100% of the time, right, Councilman?
No, sir.
Yes. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Gregorski? Seeing none. Ms. Marconi, will you please call the names of those who have asked to speak, please?
Jeffrey Cromartie, Daniel Berger, and Dr. Jonathan Berger.
Okay. Is there anyone else other than those three people? Yeah, and there's written testimony from Todd Bailson of the East Falls Community Council. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Am I on?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have your written statement.
Okay, absolutely. I will keep this absolutely brief. Appreciate your support, Councilman Jones.
Just state your name.
My name is Jeff Cromartie. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Philadelphia University. You have my testimony. I won't read it. As Councilman Jones said, this has been a almost 6-year process to get to the compromise that we have today. We're happy to say that East Falls Forward, one of the RCOs representing East Falls, voted, 94% of their membership voted in support of this plan. And just last night, Councilman Jones received something from the East Falls Community Council saying the East Falls Community Council Zoning Committee voted in support of the Philadelphia University spin subject to the successful completion of a memorandum of understanding we have been drafting in cooperation with Philadelphia University, and we expect to come to conclusion on that on Friday.
And we have that letter, and it will be made part of the record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Please, sir.
William Martin, counsel for Philadelphia University. Mr. Chair, I know that you'll be here, the witnesses that you indicated that will follow us, at least one was at the meeting last night and was one of our 6 in opposition, and I believe they're going to be making a presentation to you regarding the campus. If we could have an opportunity to provide our perspective on that presentation for a couple minutes after they're completed, we would appreciate that.
Pardon me? No, it's one at a time.
Okay.
If we go back and forth, they'll want to respond to you. Huh? Yeah, I mean, you have your statement on record. The university has a statement. They have the support of the councilman.
Thank you, Mr.
I don't want to have a back and
Chair.
forth. Okay, who else? Who else wanted to say something? Anybody? Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, hold 1 second. You got to wait till you get to the microphone and then speak.
Dr. Jonathan Berger, resident 4101 Timber Lane, Philadelphia, zip code 19129, lifelong resident of East Falls and of the city of Philadelphia. Born in the city and lived in it all my life. With the consent of the committee, I would like to give a brief slide presentation. And I will use a portable mic and go over to the screen.
Okay.
I'm here to speak in support of Councilman Jones' Section 2 amendment to the bill.
Hello.
Thank you very much. One addition to my introduction, I represent 400 residents of the area who signed a petition and worked with Councilman Jones in an attempt to preserve permanent open space in the area. This is a very, very brief presentation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd like to commend Councilman Jones for his wisdom in adding Section 2. What it does is guarantee that the steep slope ordinance and the Wissahickon watershed ordinance will apply in full force to all development that occurs in the special institutional district. This confers a great benefit upon the community and upon our neighbors, the university. And there are multiple benefits that accrue from this. This is a map of land slope. I know we had a hearing yesterday on steep slopes. The areas in red and orange yellow are the ones that are of import in the ordinance. The campus of Philadelphia University is here, and then down along Warden Drive and around this way. Much of it is very flat, which is amenable to development. However, there are some areas which are extremely steep. Much of the are extremely steep. These are along Warden Drive and Calumet Street, and then back along Gypsy Lane. And of course, you see the great boundary here of the Fairmount Park with the steep gorge. Now we get a double duty from these because these slopes, being very steep, tend to be covered with trees. This then provides recreation, cleaning of water, cooling of the air, an overall amenity which the people of East Falls have come to love and appreciate. Now that I have shown the area of the campus, I think you'll be able to pick it out. Here are the channels in the area draining down from Schoolhouse Lane, which is in the center, and north to the red, which is the Wissahickon Gorge, and south towards Warden Drive and Midvale Avenue. The ordinance calls for 50-foot buffer around these where new impervious cover is contemplated. This is very, very important. 350,000 people in Philadelphia derive their drinking water from the Wissahickon, and the intake is just down at Gustine Lake, out on the Schuylkill River, just down from the mouth. So we have a chance to protect our water supply here. Now, here's the interesting thing about the wisdom behind Councilman Jones' efforts here. Here we're standing on Warden Drive and looking up the slope. It's just a few yards down from the junction with Calumet Street. Now, why is this picture of import? Well, here's a 25% slope coming down, which is certainly covered in the regulations. This is on the Schuylkill side. If it was on the Wissahickon side, that slope would be carrying water down and be one of those drainage channels. And the other thing about it is it's covered in trees. So you come with me today up to Calumet and Warden and stand there in the shade and in the cool in that area, and that forest is doing that job. Okay? I don't have to remind you that the world is warming. It's going to keep warming. And if I had one piece of advice I could give to city council, in areas like this throughout the city, if anything could be done to preserve and expand forest cover, it's probably the cheapest and most effective way to mitigate climate change. So we get double duty here. The other thing is we get triple duty because this is a sledding hill which has been used from the 1920s onward in the area. A very, very important area.
All right, sir, if I could ask you to wrap it up, please.
Just finishing up, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I only have 2 more slides. Schoolhouse Lane, East Falls at Raven Hill. This is in the Wissahickon. You can see the land is sloping, it's very steep. You can see the drainage channel coming down. You can see the forested land on either side. Double duty, triple duty. Okay? Again, the wisdom of holding this. And finally, Henry Avenue north of Schoolhouse Lane is an urban situation where the very steep slope comes down. That is a conveyance of water down into the creek. You can see the trees and the vegetation. Again, thank you very much, Councilman Jones.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. Any questions, comments? No? No one else here to testify? Okay? All right, that completes the committee meeting on Committee on Rules. As soon as we get the lights back on, we'll go in the committee meeting.
You want me to do the amendments?
Mark, he's the vice chair, so we'll...
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see who was back.
Councilman Squilla? Can we get the lights back on? Lights. Shall there be light? There we go. All right. We still have a quorum. This is the Committee on Rules, the public meeting, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move the following bills be amended. Bill number 160521, 160330, 160336, 160369, 160223, 160335, 160300, 160518.
025 is also on that. No, it's 025.
160525. And we just did 160518. 160272. 160276. 160299. 160516.
One second.
I can't find my list, somebody took it. I don't have an amendment for that.
That's the other.
I think it did.
Huh? For 275 and amendment?
No.
No amendment for 275? Okay, all right. Just the one. You had two of them, yeah, okay. All right. Just move those amendments.
I move the adoption of those amendments. Second.
It's been moved and seconded the amendments be adopted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the amendments as read by Councilman Squilla are adopted, and we now recognize Councilman Squilla for movement of the bills. Everyone. Out of committee with a favorable recommendation on the rule suspension.
Will be reported out of committee with the favorable recommendation suspension of the rules. Bill number 160512, bill number 160521 as amended, bill number 160522, bill number 160327, bill number 160328, bill number 160330 as amended, bill number 160515, bill number 160336 as amended, bill number 160369 as amended, bill number 160223 as amended, bill number 160335 as amended, bill number 160526, Bill number 160525 as amended. Bill number 160300 as amended. Bill number 160302.
Okay, go ahead.
Bill number 160518 as amended. Bill number 160272 as amended. Bill number 160275. Bill number 160276 as amended. Bill number 160299 as amended. And Bill number 160516 as amended.
Okay, is there a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the bills as read with the appropriate amendments by Councilman Squilla have all been reported out as committee with favorable recommendation with a rule suspension to allow for first reading at our next session of council. Thank you all very much. That concludes the meeting of the Rules Committee. Thank you all very much.
Wow, great job.
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
A couple times it got by.